Well, hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome to this week's new episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. BoomStick and Friends. And it is something to get excited about. I think a little game called Halo will be releasing on Wednesday, December 8th. I don't know how many people have been playing the multiplayer. I can't stop playing it. It is so freaking good. But listen, we have a special guest with us. We're going to be talking about two monster stories, one of which is the Halo reviews. And guess what, folks? It's currently sitting at an 86 meta with, I think the last time I checked was 90 reviewers that put out there. There are 15 review sites that are playing in progress that we should be posting it, I guess, within the next day or two. But the reviews have been pretty good. Nothing under a 70 so far. I think there's been 370s, a few 80s, a lot of 90s, and we even got Windows Central gave it 100, a perfect score. And they broke down why they did that. And listen, it turns out that yes, this might be the best single player campaign and multiplayer duo that 343 has put out since taking the mantle of Halo and the Master Chief. But let's get into our introductions first. And we're going to start with our very good friend. He is basically a member of this podcast. He hasn't just officially been announced as one. OBM from Xbox Era. What's up, brother? How you feeling?
Oh, what is up, Mr. Boom? It's always great to be on here. And yeah, it's becoming like a pattern, like a trend. Every time there's like Halo's a big topic, there I am.
Oh, I reach out to you immediately, 100%.
You're like Commissioner Gordon. You flash up the Halo bat signal, and I'm on the show. So here we go.
Well, listen, it's great to have you a part of the show. Obviously, you are a big fan of Halo. You're part of a podcast, which we'll talk about later on.
It's only about Halo.
Tune into, that talks about Halo, which is freaking great. But let's go next to Kay Asante. Obviously, he's one of the voices from the incredible podcast on Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. and sometimes at 1 p.m. How you doing there, Kay Asante? Obviously, the reason why you had to go late is because, man, you had a bit of a, let's say, a life hiccup.
We had some issues. And of course we had the fine folks. We had at least one of the fine folks from the Talk Story podcast on.
Yes.
And we wanted to respect their time. So 1 p.m. is like 8 a.m. their Hawaiian time. So we thought we do that. And we had some life issues, home ownership. It's a bitch. But hey, we are here. It's Halo Day, so OBM's in the spot. We're happy. Let's talk about some of these stories. We're here. Let's go.
Absolutely. And following that, the best beard in the business, who's going to be, and I heard some of the shenanigans that went on with you and Zemi Games there. There's a rumor, Wandering Dutch, that he talks a lot of shit while playing. I don't know if that is entirely true.
He loves it. He
does love it. And you know what? He backs it up. He's usually 23-5, 17-2.
He's very good. He despised our custom games with a passion. But it's not to everybody's taste. I mean, having 10% gravity and 30% speed with a gravity hammer.
That might be a little slow.
With the game physics and seeing what crazy stuff we can come up with. But it was just about having some fun the other night, but we had quite a few games. We had some normal kind of TDMs. We had some big team battle. We had custom games. But no, Zemi he's a cool guy. He does talk a lot, but he does back it up.
Yeah,
it's all fun in games. It's all fun in games.
Absolutely, and we're all going to be having fun in games in less than or more so than 24 hours. Yeah, I think it's 1 p.m. Wednesday. It unlocks for the United States, at least New York time.
6 p.m. for us in the UK, which means just after work.
Yes, that works out perfectly.
It's going to release right when I'm in some work meetings. That's going to be painful.
See, you should have did like me, OBM. I took the day off, but now
I took Thursday off. I got Thursday, so I'm good. I'll be pulling a no lifer. That's for sure.
I can't wait to get into it. I mean, we've seen so much great coverage and footage from a lot of our peers, and I actually stopped. I listened to several reviews. ACG's review was fantastic. If you don't know who he is, you probably should. He's got a ridiculous amount of followers, and he did a great review. Quite a few of our peers did really bang up jobs. The preview that we saw at Xbox Era was fantastic. And I can't wait to play. Like, I just want to sit down with the headphones on and just forget anything else exists. But let's continue on. We have another star here, folks. Another raging star. And you know what? We found out that secretly he is a pony. He's dressed up as a human being. Welcome, the Mag. And by the way, that video was redonkulous.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Actually, you know what's funny? I even put it in our little DM there that when I did the video, my wife didn't know I was going to rip my shirt off. She almost dropped the camera, but it's okay. It's all good. We got it done. I got a lot of. That
was a shirt she bought you for your birthday, wasn't it?
Can you imagine? Oh my God, she would have killed me. Yeah, just a utility white T-shirt, 3 for $10, folks. Nobody get excited. Anyways, we've got a great show tonight. We got a lot to talk about. But one thing, Boom. Actually, you kind of touched on it there. I stopped with the Halo stuff. I'll tell you why. Yeah. I watched 2 or 3 reviews. Well, I listened while I was taking a shower this morning before work. And I just wanted to get a gist of it. I'm just like, tell me if it's great or not. That's all I need to know. And that was it. I stopped there. I didn't watch any videos. I didn't do anything. I'm like, you know what? Forget it. My weekend is Tuesday, Wednesday. It comes out same as you, Boom, Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern. And I'm off on the Wednesday. So I'm going to be playing. And I said, you know what? Sounds great. Looks great. Maybe there's, we'll talk about some other stuff. But guess what? I'll be there 1:01 p.m. ready to go, and I'm going to be playing it all damn day and all night. So got a great show, guys. Let's get right into this.
And of course, our sniper elite who somehow still plays Battlefield. I'm actually quite shocked at that. Tempest Son, what's up, brother? Are you ready for some Halo single player? And have you been dominating the competition in the multiplayer?
Dominating, I've been holding my own. We'll put it that way.
Okay, well, that's good.
Being a Battlefield guy, transitioning to Halo, you got to play it differently. There's no way in the same game for sure. But no, I've been playing plenty of Halo. Actually, you know what? You always used to call me the MMO guy, and one of my favorite games of all time just transferred new ownership to a different company.
Oh,
thought I'd never played a game. It's called Arcade. It's an MMO, and if anybody wants an MMO fix, hit me up. I'll tell you all about it. We're looking for people to play, but Cacao Games, the people that do Black Desert, or used to publish Black Desert, and they're going to be publishing that game. What's the one where you play as the kids? It's like a Pokemon game.
Okay, yeah,
OKV. Yeah, okay, yeah. So Pearl it's Cacao Abyss? Games. Pearl Abyss is making them. But yeah, it's good so far. They made some great changes, so my wife and I are like thoroughly addicted. So I'm still gonna make some time for the Chief on I think it's Wednesday, right? So I'll still make time for him. But yeah, no, it's good. Gaming's good. So I'm looking forward to the topics too.
Yeah, we have some good ones we're going to open up with. An Everborn Saga. What's going on, brother? We were talking today, and it's because of this man that I said, you know what? We're going to have to talk about Ori and the Blind Forest game director, throwing kind of Microsoft under the bus, and a little bit of a head scratcher when you read some of his comments. I mean, yikes. If I'm co-owner, I'm looking at that guy with a side eye right now. But how you doing, man? What you been up to?
Well, I've been good, man. I've been good. I watched one Halo review, and that was enough for me. It was Dealers, which he did great work on that review. Mm-hmm. His honest opinions and all that. But that was enough for me because I'm like, you know what? It's 2 days. I don't need to see any footage that I have not seen anymore. And people are going to try their best not to spoil it. But you seeing some of these things is kind of taking that away from you. And even when I watch movies, I try not to read the reviews until after I see the movie. But I am glad to see that 343 is finally getting recognized for all the hard work they put into this thing, and it's really, really good to see. Those guys that had to like go through hell to get to where we are, and it's good from here. But I'm ready to go, man. Lots of things to talk about. Lots of stuff to do, and 16 hours left on the Kickstarter campaign. So that pins and needles.
Yeah, well, hopefully you do cross the boundary of what you need to to make that a successful Kickstarter. And you know what, obviously the work that you do is fantastic. So I don't see why that wouldn't happen. But listen, folks, we're going to talk about Halo, and we're going to be talking about Halo a lot. There's some personal thoughts that I have with some of the reviews that I read. But I don't want to get into that just yet. What I want to get into, folks, is Thomas Smaller, who is the game director at Moon Studios. And Moon Studios, if you didn't already know, has made two master class hand-drawn pieces of artwork known as Ori and the Blind Forest and Ori and the Will of the Wisps. These were, or one of them remains, an exclusive to Xbox. We did see the Switch get Ori and the Blind Forest, which is great. A lot of people went out and supported that, even though they had it for Xbox, so they can play it on the Switch, and that's fantastic. Well, he got on Reset Era, and he went on a bit of a tear. Now, he wrote about 11 or anywhere between 11 and 13 paragraphs, and he kind of threw Microsoft under the bus. And I'm not going to read all of them because then it's going to ruin, it's going to waste 2 hours of the podcast. I am going to read some specific quips, if you will, from it. He says this in this Reddit, and by the way, it's verified. Just by the way, this is not just someone pretending to be him. He says, "I think Microsoft is in a weird between a rock and a hard place position, where they're saying that this is the vision that they want to see happening in the future. No artificial walls, no boundaries, but then they're not necessarily acting accordingly." Right? Now, what do I mean by that? Well, what he talks about, and specifically, this is, again, if you're in a gaming business, we all understand that exclusives may not hold the exact same powers they did 20 years ago, but they're a part of big business. And he says this: "I personally wish Microsoft would have the guts to just go through with their vision, make their games and port them to all platforms, not leaving anyone behind. The 13-year-old kid whose parents were able to only afford to buy one system for their child now won't grow up playing Halo because Microsoft believes that it makes the most financial sense to leave PlayStation players out." What the F is he talking about? Okay, so it continues. "How does that benefit anyone but Microsoft? Yeah, you'll probably sell a bunch more Xboxes, but you'll lose out on millions of potential dedicated fans." And he finishes it off with, "Your goal as a platform holder should be that these games play the best on your box, not that you force people to buy your box because they're creating an artificial barrier for other players out there who weren't able to afford buying the system you're making. I hope I'll live long enough to see the industry embracing this kind of openness." Okay, well, now we got. Listen, look. I'm not a businessman, but I have common sense, and I do understand that you're not going to, like, for instance, buy Bethesda and have those games go to PlayStation when you just spent nearly $8 billion to get that. I hear someone's dog barking.
That might be me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, all right. No problem. So, Keasante, I want to go to you first on this, if that's okay. We were having a pretty good conversation. You, me, Wandering Dutch, and OBM. We could have started a podcast half an hour early. Now, listen, I take nothing away from this man's skills. I've heard him talk before. He's very elegant in how he conducts himself. We both come to the realization that when you become so incredibly intelligent that sometimes you lose a piece of either common sense or your filter for maybe you shouldn't say things when you say them. This is one of those instances where I'm kind of scratching my head, because I think Microsoft has done pretty well for their studio, put them out in front and center in numerous E3s. I'm sure that they were dropped several Brinks trucks of money for Ori and the Will of the Wisps and Ori and the Blind Forest.
Well, he said it himself in that comment. They funded the game.
They funded the game. Well, there you go. And again, now, with you telling me that, because I somehow I missed that. now it's even more of a conundrum. I don't understand. And now I don't understand, because if Microsoft funded your game, how could you be upset with them telling you where the game can go, and why should it go to PlayStation? They paid for it. So my question to you is, what is he talking about, Kay?
So I will start this by saying I really like Tomas Mahler. I like him a lot. Why? Because he's that rare developer that likes to break the fourth wall, share details that most developers don't share. I've seen a very great Digital Foundry documentary style interview they did with him, where he literally broke down the technical details of Ori and the Will of the Wisp, showing you what they did, all the technical, like really deep technical stuff that I really appreciated. Like, so for in that aspect, I think that's absolutely wonderful that you have somebody who's not so media savvy or media trained that they can't spill the guts on the stuff that some of us want to know, right? So I appreciate him for that. But he is also the guy who has had to come and apologize for calling Cyberpunk and No Man's Sky developers snake oil salesmen. So this is the guy.
I do remember that. I do remember that statement. Yes. Yeah.
This is the guy. He's that guy, right?
He can be spicy.
Exactly. He likes to be provocative. He likes to come out the mouth and say things that maybe you shouldn't say because you know where your bread's buttered. Possibly because he realizes that his bread is no longer being buttered where it used to be. So there's a little saltiness there. That's what I suspect. And if you read this whole thing, there's a lot of that in this, right?
Yeah.
Same thing. What do you call it? What's the other developer that did the classic platformer, very difficult bullet hell platformer? What's their name? Studio MDHR.
Oh yes,
Cuphead. Studio MDHR. Right. It seems like that's the same kind of contract. They own the game, but the distribution rights is to Microsoft. So before you're allowed to put it on Switch, for instance, you must ask for permission. It seems that may not have gone well. I'm just reading the tea leaves here. I don't have the full details, but it is very well documented that Microsoft owns the distribution rights to the franchise. So that could be where this is all of this is coming from, But yeah, like you're saying there, Boom, it's like a head scratcher, I like the fact that some of these developers are able to go beyond the media training and go beyond the tertiary reading of the situation and really come out and say something, right? I like that. What do you call it? The control developer, Remedy Studios, came out and really spoke about how all of it was about decisions that they had to make. Not the fact that, this box is better than that box or whatever. They had to make decisions. They have a budget, and because of that, certain things were cut and this and that. Earnestness in development. I really appreciate hearing that stuff because it informs the consumer. So you're not just saying ridiculous things without actually understanding that it's beyond the box or the shiny thing or whatever. And these are all just tools that have been given to their developers, and decisions are made based on that, right? And the money they have and all of that. He's a little bit out of pocket in this respect, and I suspect that a lot of it has to do with the money. Or the fact that he may
a little bit.
Well, hey, I'm trying to apply some of that training that he didn't apply, and I'm trying to be a little bit more. What's the word? I'm trying to be a bit more appropriate in the way I'm displaying the way I'm speaking about this process. I could easily say what I want to say in my head, but that's inappropriate, so we won't go there. But no, in all seriousness, if you read this. Right. If you fully read, and there's a lot to read there. If you fully read this,
again, this wasn't a drunken stupor. Like I saw some people,
and this wasn't like a Twitter thing where he only had a few
120 characters to
he
get
went
his point
and wrote
across.
it out. He wrote it out, right? And that and everything you read from the whole thing tells you that he's a little salty that he didn't get to put it on PlayStation, and he's one of those guys that thinks that, just like we've had this conversation, Everborn, where some folks live in the world where PlayStation is gaming, like Pampers is diapers. You know what I'm saying? So if it's not on PlayStation, it doesn't exist. He's one of those guys. Oh, how can little Timmy not get the game? Little Timmy can play it on a browser. Like, shut your mouth.
Here's the thing. Just one thing, real quick. Jump in. You know what is going to be hilarious?
Yes.
You know what's going to be hilarious? when Private Division works out a deal with Sony and then it's exclusive to the PlayStation.
There you go. And then of course he'll be quiet because then mum's the word. Timmy will get to play it on his $70 per pop games console.
I was going to say the funny thing is about the exclusivity thing as well that he hates so much is without that exclusivity, none of these companies would have funded his game in the first place.
That's correct. Yeah,
exactly.
The game wouldn't have come out. He wouldn't have got that private funding.
Here's just another thing about all of this.
Well,
right?
I like your points on this because you're a business guy. Like you're a self-starter, so you understand that when someone is fitting the bill, you just shut your mouth.
Oh yeah, I mean this is like your dogs know this. Don't bite the hands that feed you.
Exactly.
But
you know where your bread is buttered. You know.
The thing is this, and I do think that part of this is kind of like he makes this comment. We're talking about this now. People will run articles with this, and this is the beginning of the meta marketing campaign for whatever project.
I think that's part of it. Too.
Remember, he apologized for Cyberpunk.
Right now, he's a hero in the PlayStation. It's smart marketing to bring yourself to get the attention of a base that maybe paid you no attention. They don't even know who you are.
He's an idiot.
But you know what's another thing that's hilarious.
Indeed.
He says that Microsoft, in terms of revenue, the third place platform holder, if they do this, everyone will follow suit. Let me ask you guys a question. How did that work out for Sega?
It didn't. So there you go.
Okay. Because Nintendo and Sony really followed suit when Sega was like, I'm going to be a third-party publisher.
Exactly.
Yeah. What are we talking about?
This is the point,
right? What
we're talking about him not getting the money he wants. That's what we're talking about.
Okay,
it's not putting it where he wants to put it.
The PlayStation envy out of it is strong with this one. Is all I'm saying, right? Like,
and all I'll say real quick before I let you continue: if you want your game to succeed elsewhere, how about you release it unbroken first? Because that's what stops you from getting a lot of the accolades it deserves.
Well, I mean,
that game was broken when it came out.
No, it's funny. It should have been one of those games of a generation that scored 100, like almost, and it didn't, and it was held back because it was.
And it was sad because that game was brilliant. It was a masterpiece.
It still is brilliant, and now it's even better than before.
But I do want to take a moment to talk about the letter of the law is ridiculous. Spirit of the law, I think that's a discussion to have. And I think OBM, you and I spoke about this in the DM, where in spirit that would be great, right? But
in practicality, no good.
Yeah, it makes zero sense practically. But the logic is still flawed here, right? And a lot of people like to go back to the Phil Spencer quote where he says exclusives are counter to what gaming is about. That's not actually the quote. He was referring to limiting your experience to a specific box where you could that's counter to what gaming's supposed to be about, or the vision that they have, because they want to say you should be able to game anywhere. The problem with this guy's supposition is that you can game, all you need to enjoy a game is a browser.
Yes,
connected screen.
Right? You don't even need an Xbox controller. You can use a PlayStation controller.
Right, and
internet connected screen. That's all you need.
If you are a Sony diehard and you don't want, you're such a Sony diehard that because a game is published by Xbox Game Studios, you're just gonna lock yourself off from it. How many people are like that?
So let me ask you something real quick, Everborn, real quick. So if you are such a Sony diehard and you only want to play on that box, right? More power to you. Why not then fight the good fight to then let them unlock the hidden browser in the PS5? Because it's there.
Yeah.
It's just locked because they don't want you to be able to play Game Pass from it. But you unlock it and boom, you can continue being your Sony diehard. And that'd be less money spent than forcing the other guy to put their game on your machine.
And again, the other thing is, is his idea is like they're stuck between a rock and a hard place, as though they are talking out of two sides of their mouth, and they're not, right? When you say PC, cloud, and console, that has a larger potential audience than any ecosystem out there.
Yes.
And what they've done is removed these barriers. So again, if you say, look, I just want to just say you want to put a game on PlayStation, that's fine. Maybe they like the SDK, whatever. Say you want to do that, but don't say Microsoft is caught between a rock and a hard place and you want them to go first. We all know what would happen there, right? Which is Sony would be like, cool, less competition for us. Maybe we'll raise the price on our first party games now, right? So again, all of this is really kind of, it sounds like sour grapes. Right?
And to add a little bit more color to this real quick, Everborn, the Cuphead did make its way to PlayStation. Maybe the person who's not really trained, maybe that person was not able to ask the question correctly, and that's why the answer was no.
But it was the same for the Falconeer. So the Falconeer started on Xbox.
Yes, exactly.
The Falconeer is now on everything.
Yes.
Exactly.
I think those deals are different though. Like this, Ori was global publishing.
You are right. It's a different deal because the Falconeer, of course, they had kind of marketing rights and things for the Falconeer initially.
Yeah, well,
they didn't. Exclusive period. Ori, of course, was fully funded by Microsoft.
Yeah, they published it. They published Ori. They own the rights to Ori.
The publishing rights.
And that's essentially. It just kind of adds some context to it. I was telling you guys before the show, like I do like Thomas Mahler. He's actually interacted with, with me and a bunch of other, people over at the Xbox Era Discords. He's really, really cool. It gives you like a lot of insight into his studio. So absolutely do like him, even though, I definitely disagree with, with the take and the context. One thing is like a couple of years ago, I remember, people were asking him, hey, would you ever sell to Microsoft? And he said, no, like they want to become like this next big developer. They want to be on everything. They want to get that mind share and be known as like one of the greatest developers in the world. Like it's like he's got really high ambitions, and so you do wonder. He got on Nintendo, and I think he wrote something there that kind of maybe signified or maybe brought a little bit of insight to what might have been causing this, because he said something, hey, it cost us to get on Nintendo, so it didn't come for free, but obviously they couldn't figure out, there wasn't any way to get on PlayStation. So yeah, there definitely could be some salt there, because they're obviously pushing for that, and they probably were using, trying to use Phil's words as leverage. And we all know here, most people who are Xbox enthusiasts know what those words meant, and honestly, we all know too that so it really is in Sony's hands. If they wanted to have Game Pass on their machine, if they wanted to allow the browser to to be able to access Game Pass, that it's really Microsoft would love to be have their ecosystem accessed everywhere.
Of course they would. Absolutely.
They want their whole, and that's what Phil said. He said he wants their whole ecosystem access. So if they can't access Game Pass, they're not going to spend the money to port a single game over there, which is really only going to slow down people jumping into their ecosystem. So I mean, we get it, right? I think we understand what he meant when he said that. I think, he's just, my guess, and I don't know, I haven't asked him and really talked to him since he made those comments, but my guess is there probably was he probably was hearing these comments and was and yeah, you're right, you've seen some other developers go on the PlayStation and go on to other platforms and wanted to use that as an opportunity for them to get exposure for a great game. We all know Ori is a great game, but
Indeed.
But 2/3 of a lot of people who play in console don't even know who Moon is, because
correct,
he was never exposed to them. So and I think that's their goal. I do think there's some short-sightedness there to it, though. I do, this is just my opinion. It's not, I'm not somebody who's had the chance to say this to him or anything like that, but I do think that because of the accessibility that is coming up in the ecosystem, a lot of that, especially because of it reduces the price barrier. I think there's an opportunity for them, for some of these developers that get partnered into their it's going to be a different level of accessibility, whereas following a traditional model, even on more platforms, might actually get you less people, engaged in talking about you. So there's that factor. And I think, and again, this is just a guess, a projection, but I do think that you're going to see some developers that are going to get more exposure than they've ever gotten in the traditional model when they were on everything. So we'll just have to see how that goes. But, we already know that, we see like the Gunk developer, right? It'll be interesting to see what kind of engagement they get. But I do think it was a little bit self-serving, and overall, he's still a good guy. I still
no. Listen, we're not throwing him under a bus here, because obviously he's a very talented developer. Ori and the Will of the Wisp and Ori and the Blind Forest are masterclass creations. There's no doubt about it.
Still essentials for the Xbox platform. Anyone 100%. Who has one that has not played that game needs to do themselves a favor and correct that immediately.
It is it is a love letter to anyone that loves a Metrovania type of situation. The storytelling is intense. It's emotional. It's great.
On the Series X, you can set it to 6K or something, and it looks like a painting. It looks like a painting. Insane.
Yeah.
One of the top games of the last generation.
100%. No doubt about it. It's just unfortunate that when you read this, again, like we were talking in the green room before, when you are on Twitter and you go to try and make your point with 120 characters, you sometimes have to leave stuff out to get your point in there, and it gets jumbled. This was not that case. He really went on a bit of a rant, and he had 11 paragraphs, and some of which was as long as my arm. So he was in his feelings, like the kids like to say. But
them kids,
Wandering Dutch. Let's get your opinion on this. This is a bit of a conundrum, considering how much Microsoft has done for his studio, and he's a co-founder, obviously. His game is not everyone's cup of tea, but Microsoft found a way to make people aware of this game, and people played it, loved it. It was a Game of the Year contender. For many people, it was their Game of the Year. The second one, Will o' the Wisp, launched. It was a little buggy, but it was still now if you play it now, it's perfect. Where is his headspace at with this?
This is just like an ideal world situation to him. Like, I want my game everywhere. I wish it was everywhere. It's like that's all well and good, but like if your game was self-funded and you had the option to then put it everywhere, then you could do such. Like I mentioned with the Falconeer, that's pretty much self-funded. He works with Wired Productions, who help him put it everywhere.
Yeah,
yeah.
And obviously now he's on the Stadia. I think he started with Xbox, then ported it to.
That's Thomas Salas, right?
Thomas Salas. Yeah, another awesome dude with really outspoken
Dutch developer.
Awesome
yes,
dude.
Yeah, I like him too.
But he was an Xbox, then PlayStation, then Nintendo, and now Stadia. Mm-hmm. So he's covered all bases as well, obviously on Steam alongside Xbox at the same time. So he's all covered. But that's again in a different, and this is what I think he doesn't understand as well, is these people that are making these comments to him about, oh, you should put it on PlayStation, don't understand these contractual obligations.
Yeah.
Like if people understood the difference between, okay, this game was funded by this company, so therefore this company has a say in where this goes, versus this one is self-funded and therefore given his own funding, if he can afford to do so, can put it wherever he likes, is a different story. And I think he just needs to, I think he's just took it a little bit too much to heart on where and just thought, you know what it is, I just want my games everywhere. And went on this little rant about having his game everywhere. It's like, well, that's great, and I'm happy with that.
Just one thing. Sorry, Gus. The thing that bothers me about all of this, it was all fun and games when you was taking Microsoft's money.
I mean,
right?
now
you got the money and you put your game out, and they helped you with everything you needed to make the game. Now it's like, I don't like them. Shut up. Right?
And
keep that to yourself.
Do we recall Street Fighter V? Wasn't that funded by PlayStation? Have we seen that anywhere?
No, you have not. No.
We don't hear anybody bitching and complaining about that one, do we? Even though that's a storied franchise that belongs everywhere.
And listen, I don't know if you guys listened to Jez and Rand on this weekend's show, but
it was actually quite good.
Jez, in passing talked about, because they talked about this, and he says there's some behind the scenes things where he doesn't think Moon Studios will ever work with Xbox again.
Probably not.
I suspect as much.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know if it's because of this, but this feels like there's some other things that prompted this, because the logic behind it makes no sense. So
remember what I just said. The man knows where his bread is buttered. So if you start talking this way, that means your bread's no longer getting buttered there. Yeah, they have parted ways. You can.
Well, it's like a breakup, right? Like, I mean, I don't know if any of you remember your last breakup, but I remember one time, me and my brother we ran into somebody that I once talked to. He says, I couldn't hear anything she said, but all I could see was she was going like this, shaking her finger at you. I was like, yeah, she's just counting off everything I did wrong, and none of it made sense. But that's just sometimes what happens, right? And I just think that was it could have been, like I said, this is all speculation. I have at this side, I have no inside, nothing that's not already out there to go off of. But just reading the entire thing there, it sounds like he felt like he should have been able to get his game everywhere, and for whatever reason, maybe they were close at one point in time, or maybe there was something and it fell through. Who knows?
Well, maybe if he wasn't talking like that, you could have negotiated a deal. Yeah, listen, I'm playing Cuphead on my Tesla right now. Like, these are things that can happen. And Mag, you know about that.
Yeah. I do.
Well, I mean, listen, Dutch, anything you'd like to add to what you had to say?
I just think it's an ideal world situation. In an ideal world, all developers would want their games everywhere. And I think even Cory Barlog said it before his game was announced to come out on PC. He was like, yeah, of course. I'd love the game on PC, but that's not my choice.
Yeah, he sure did.
He said it himself. And then, of course, further down the line, when Sony made that decision, okay, we're bringing our games to PC, then it's coming to PC. It just depends on what the company wants to do and as and when. And as Everborn mentioned, you don't bite the hand that feeds you. If someone's helping you make your game, if you're building that game, if they're funding it, then it is ultimately their choice. Yeah. I mean, he should be happy that his game's seen the light of day at all. In a world such as it is, not only has his game seen the light of day, but they've helped him fund a game that is critically acclaimed across the board.
Yeah,
so it's opened the eyes up to everybody. Obviously to come to Microsoft and an Xbox versus Sony or Nintendo, I would imagine his pitch would have been to all platforms before Xbox took that up. So there must have been something about Xbox in the first place to decide to go for that contract, because you don't just find something.
Well, probably the big bag of money didn't hurt either.
Yeah. So it's just a little bit. It's more just it's a really roundabout way of saying in future I'm going to put my games on all platforms and I'm going to work with Private Division instead of.
Didn't they already say that? They already said that was out many months ago.
That was he
didn't need to say anything else. It was already announced. His next game would be multi-plat. They already had a multi-platform publisher and all that. Good for you. Good. You don't need to go and vomit verbal diarrhea everywhere. Let it go.
Yeah, that's a mistake for sure.
Well, listen, before I get to Mag, let me catch up some of these super chats. Been quite a few of them. Nightwolf 3186 drops not one but two. And the first one says, let's get it tonight. Hit that like button, peep show, booming these boys some love. It's Halo week. I've watched multiple reviews and I am ready. Indeed, we all are. Nightwolf. And the second one says, so with that same logic, does the dev hate Sony and Nintendo for behaving that exact same way? Shaking my head, indeed. Kirby Louise, good friend of the show, he drops a $5 super chat and says, I want to play Kirby games on my Xbox and PC. Where is the same energy? It's simply never going to be fair, and we all have to live with that. Drawn TJ, generous friend of the show, he drops a $20 super chat and says, hey, Boom and panel, Halo Infinite campaign is going to be awesome. The hardcore PlayStation fanboys are toxic and don't want Microsoft to do well. It's just sad because it's all a small part of the PlayStation community. Well, they're the most vocal. They're not the majority. They're the minority for sure, but they're also the loudest, which is why a lot of people go there and say the entire community is toxic. It's not. I know plenty of great PlayStation players that are exclusive to that platform that do not conduct themselves like that. We have Gamer by Choice drops a $10 super chat and says, when I read the Reddit article, it sounded like he wanted Xbox to be the company to start the trend of all games getting released on all platforms. My question is, why does it have to be Xbox? That is a fantastic question. And it shouldn't be. Microsoft knows what they're doing.
Microsoft is not in the position currently to do that. The only way you will see that happen is once Game Pass comes to other platforms. Mm-hmm. That is what would lead the charge, not becoming a third-party publisher.
Correct.
Sony will never do that. If Sony is in the position to do that, because currently they are the market leader. Right?
The leadership.
Microsoft is not the one to it would make it makes no. Okay, forget it. I'm not.
Well, and as we learned in Mag's video, they now have a Game Pass competitor. So
there you go.
That's absolutely correct. Lucius Augustus drops an outstanding $2 super chat, says the return of the king. Halo is back, baby. Indeed, the Master Chief is going to reign supreme this Wednesday, specifically here in New York at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. JC Claramore drops an outstanding $2 super chat and says Sony isn't making a Game Pass competitor. No, they are making an kind of like a sprucier version of PS Now. You're not getting day and date there, folks. They're just not going to do it. And actually, Jason Schreier confirmed that their first party IPs would not be there day and date. That's been confirmed. Jason Schreier confirmed that from Sony. So you're going to get a prettier version, I guess, of PS Now with PS 1, 2, 3, 4, and PSP games in there.
I would not be so quick to say prettier version, because we don't know their emulation capabilities. We know they can make it, but we don't know that they can make it nicer looking.
That is true. We don't know if it's going to get a boost. That is absolutely correct. And Outbreak Podcast, generous friend of the show, he drops a $2 super chat and says, what an amazing panel, Boom. All are rock stars. Well, thank you for the compliment, brother, and thank you for being here and the generosity. Now, you jumped in earlier, Mag, and you said something. I want you to continue that point, because this is you obviously around big business. You're a chef, so you understand that when you're cooking at one place, people are going to come to your place to get said food because you're cooking there, and you're not cooking for the world. Talk about it.
Yeah. Okay. First of all, I'm not going to be as nice as everybody else has been so far, and because like Mr.
Well,
Asante
after that last video, sir, I don't know. Do you know the word nice? It is Santa Claus time. Damn it!
Let me tell you something. When you're out in the real world, the business world, the whatever world, when you say something dumb, you usually get the taste smacked right out your mouth, whether it's physical or whether it's in a business sense. When you just did what everybody else has already said on this panel, bit the hand that feeds you, you just shut a door you don't want shut.
Yeah.
And I don't care why. I don't care how nice your games are. I played all of them. I don't care how good your games are. I don't care how great of an artist you are. You're still an idiot if you say stupid things. Then people say stupid things all the time. Now, it's okay to have an opinion. Obviously, no problem there. And then, by the way, I was going to say something else, before I get into this. Like the immortal Patrick Swayze says, I'm nice until I'm not nice.
Yeah.
And right now, I'm not nice. So here's the thing. I read this thing several times. Now, I was thinking about something else. Something actually, Everborn brought up the Tesla thing. I was just thinking to myself, I'm like, I'm going to bring that into as an example. How about I just bought a new Tesla. Did I buy it so that the whole neighborhood can save on gas?
No, you did not.
I invested in it. For me.
You mean your Tesla doesn't belong to the streets?
Right, yeah, it doesn't belong to the streets. Okay, exactly.
Are you saying that little Jimmy can't borrow your Tesla?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? You see, these humble braggers. I'm just saying.
Where does all these Teslas coming from? Is there like a Tesla
They're coming from Elon Musk.
You guys getting
Listen, you shouldn't have asked that question. That was in the signing bonus. Once you become a part of the podcast, you get a Tesla.
I was about to say,
Boom is buying
mine,
them,
you get a Tesla.
Yeah. But you know what I'm saying? I invested for me, not to sound selfish, but I mean, come on, let's get real here. I bought it for me. Did I buy a house so that everybody can move in? No, I bought the house for me. The same thing applies to here, and now it did go to the Switch. Okay, eventually, that kind of thing. Now, there's something else. Again, you guys have brought this already up. Would Sony have done this? Not a chance. Would
in
they
your life?
Yeah, not in your life would they do it. And to me, I read into this. The way I read into this is that once again, it all boils down to the same old crap. When Xbox rises, now it's a problem. We want you to compete.
We're actually going to get into that in the Halo topic because we have a lot to say about that. But you're this is not a fanboy comment. This
it's not
something.
Now it's an issue.
Yes.
Hold on a minute. What do I always say? It's not show friends.
It's show
business.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Thank you. Now the other thing, there's two other things I want to bring up very quickly that I took issue with what he said. Is I read the whole damn thing, by the way. It was ridiculous. It was like Gone with the Wind novelization. I'm like, dude, just get your points across and move on. Nobody cares that much.
Yeah.
But anyways, I read the whole thing. And there's something he did say. He kept bringing up Bungie. He brought it up like 8 times. He was bringing up Bungie. Well, Bungie does this. Bungie brought it up. Bungie had it on the Silver Pepper. And I'm like, dude, 2 things. You ain't Bungie, first of all, which is a third-party developer who did not make. I mean, okay, they did some work with PlayStation, whatever else, to have some DLC exclusive for a timed exclusive, whatever else, right? But the game was everywhere else. Second thing is, your game is not a multiplayer games as a service designed for crossplay and and multi-platform and crossplay. It's a single-player game. This is a completely different thing.
Yes.
Anyway, that's just another side thing that just kind of bothered me. The other thing is that I think that was completely tone deaf, and this is the part that absolutely pissed me off, is when he's talking about the quote, and you quoted it, Boom, millions of dedicated fans. Are you out of your mind?
Yeah.
This guy, like Microsoft, this generation specifically, has opened the door that for accessibility on almost every single thing, every single tech platform in the world, except for a Sony PlayStation. That's it. That's really the only thing that is blocking that you can't play it on.
And who's responsible for that, Mag? Is that
right,
Microsoft
exactly.
or is that Sony?
Sony. Now, Sony is
2 billion potential gamers.
Right, exactly. And you know what? Someone else in the panel, I don't know who said it, I've already said it, that Phil wants it on everything. He's already said that, right? So the only person actually, people blocking it is Sony because A, they're insecure and they're very conservative. That's the way Japanese business runs. A lot of quiet insecurity and a hell of a lot of conservative business practices. My God, Boom's head just got really big. Okay.
I was typing and I pressed something I shouldn't have pressed. There you go.
It's okay. It was actually really funny. Now he said the whole sob story about little Billy can't afford to play this and that, whatever, because their parents.
Little Jimmy.
I'm sorry. Okay, little Jimmy. There you go. Well, little Jimmy and little Billy both can't afford it. Well, guess what? Do you have a tablet? Do you have a cell phone?
Who said it before? Do you have a browser? Do you have a browser?
Any
you have a laptop?
internet connected screen. That's it.
Exactly. Do you have a laptop? Do you have an old gen console? That you could play it on the cloud? They have given you, and I'm like I said, I sound like a broken record. Anyway, kids, if you don't know what records are, they're these things that used to spin around. We used to put needles on them. Anyways, the thing
they were called vinyls for all of you youngins.
So, I sound like a broken record, but you know what? They've given you every option on earth to be able to access their ecosystem, including said game, Ori 1 and Ori 2. So that holds absolutely zero water whatsoever.
If you are not playing on Xbox, it's because you don't want to. The barrier is not
it's because you don't want to. It's not because you do not have the accessibility to do so. They have given you every option to do so. Now, the other thing is, and now we've already touched on this, and this is the last thing I'm going to say before I move it on, is that if you reverse the roles, okay? Let's say your game was specifically made for the PlayStation, okay? And you were Ori 3, okay, is coming to PlayStation only. The only place you could play it is on the PlayStation.
Yeah,
you want to talk about
platform.
accessibility?
Yeah.
And sorry, Boom, excuse me. Maybe PC 2 years later.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell kind of accessibility is that? So I'm sorry, I don't understand the angle from where this guy's coming from, because when you say something like that, you make it sound like someone else is more accessible, right? Where in fact, everybody else is the least accessible. So he's literally contradicting his own statements. I'm sorry, if you're an artist and you make games and you're a developer, sometimes it's best not to speak in public. Just shut up and just do your job.
Some people need some action. Well, this is why you have PR people that go out there and speak for you. This again, he holds a very high position. He's a co-founder of the company.
That's great.
I'm gonna be honest with you. If I'm the other guy on the other desk, I'm like, dude. Like you gotta talk with me when you're gonna say crazy things like this, because you just closed a business door potentially worth millions. Doing this.
And by the way, if anybody thinks that Phil Spencer's a nice guy behind closed doors when it comes to business,
nah, he's
I
probably
can bet
ruthless.
your ass he is a gangster behind.
For the watch. What did I tell you?
Exactly. He's like Wu-Tang Financial. Remember that from Dave Chappelle? He's like Wu-Tang Financial. He will put the gun on the table and be like,
bonds, ninja.
Now you can't leave. You know what I'm saying? He's like one of those deals. So like the thing is that I don't understand. Like the thing is, you mentioned that, Boom. Politicians, presidents, prime ministers all say stupid things sometimes. So that's why they have script
PR
writers.
people.
Okay, that's why they have PR people. That's why they have speech writers, whatever, coaches, all that kind of stuff. And like I said, it's totally fine. I know I'm just kind of being a little ridiculous, but at the same time, it's okay to speak your mind. But when it comes to business, if you don't know what the hell you're talking about, or you're talking about possibly shutting the door on something, please do yourself a favor, do us all a favor, and just don't speak.
So one other thing though that I think when I read the article, what is, I hope this doesn't mean we don't get an Ori 3.
Oh, this almost means that.
This ain't happening.
Because this is why I was asking, like, does Microsoft own the rights?
They don't own the IP, but
they own the publishing rights on
publishing
it.
rights. Yeah.
So
even if they make a new version of it, Microsoft will have to either publish it or be consulted before they're allowed to publish it elsewhere. Yeah. So you're basically just killing your own franchise by opening your mouth and being stupid. By the way, a bit of color. In 2020, in June, they said 2 million copies sold and counting. And this was for Will o' the Wisps.
Okay, well, there you go.
So they didn't do that bad, did they?
No, they didn't do that bad at all. And then that doesn't include Game Pass engagement, correct?
Yep. And
which they get paid for engagement as well and downloads, I believe.
Exactly.
Yes.
Okay. Wise old gamer, can you stop? You're tripping me up, man. The guy's making me laugh. The guy makes me laugh. I'm trying to get my points across, and all I can see is his quips in the comments. And I'm like, dude, this guy, every week he does it to me. Sorry, go on.
No, that's all right. So Tempest, let's get your final point. Now we're gonna bring in. We're gonna bring into the topic everyone's been waiting for, and that is Tempest. We have almost 400 people here, by the way.
Yes, we do.
So if you are new, consider subscribing. Help me get to 10K, and more importantly, if you are here and enjoying the banter, hit the like button. But Tempest, before I get to you, Crazy Lou Gaming drops an outstanding, very generous $20 super chat and says Thomas Mala, I think, woke up on the wrong side of the bed to talk bad about a company that put him on the map with its money exclusives have been here forever. And you don't like exclusive, get your own fund and go for it. Indeed, again, it's a bit of a shocker when Microsoft did pay for everything, and you're talking this slander. But Tempest, let's get your final opinion on this. I will ask you the question: does this close the door on any business happenings between Moon Studios and Xbox moving forward? What do you think?
No, I don't think it closes the business, to be honest with you. I think if there is a good game to be made, good game to be played, I don't think Phil or even people that might be able to make that decision at Microsoft would let this stop them. You know, if there's money to be made, there's money to be made. You know, me, however, a couple things I was gonna bring up. You know, I'm all for smaller developers or people being willing to bite the hand that feeds if that hand is corrupt, shady, you know, like an Activision deal going on, something of that sort. But that's not what this is. He's speaking out against everyday business practices that everybody, including movie services, you name it, everybody does this. You know, like you're not going to find Squid Game on Amazon Prime, that type of thing, you know? Yeah. So why should this be any different? I think it's a little bit foolish to even open this door, and also it's kind of baffling to me. Like, at what point is Microsoft, I guess, going to be held in the same not just regard, but like treated like a Nintendo or a Sony. Like who else? I can't think of anything. There might be, but I can't think of any instances like this of somebody really speaking out. There was one recently, the indie thing. I can't remember exactly what it was that happened. Oh, not being featured on the front page and stuff of like Sony. So I guess, yeah, I take back my statement there. There has been some complaints, but it just seems like this stuff always happens to Microsoft.
It does. You're not wrong by saying that. Yeah.
Yeah, it just really does. And I just, I don't know.
In that indie instance there, it was kind of warranted though. They just wanted more shine and they weren't getting it, right? So in that instance, being a whistleblower, I think that's a good thing. Like to your point, what you were saying.
Yeah, and in this case here, you saw Ori all over the place. I mean, it was one of Microsoft's, and for all intents and purposes, it is an indie game, but Microsoft treated it like a AAA blockbuster. They did. It was all over the place, and Ori's fantastic. I'm never going to say anything bad towards their work because Ori is an absolute masterpiece. It really is. This whole situation is just kind of baffling, though. It's almost like somebody caught him on the wrong day, man. Maybe he was just having a bad day and he wanted somebody to blame for something. Who knows? I have days like that too. But yeah, I mean, everybody handled it or said their piece perfectly. I agree with pretty much everybody here. I don't know. It's silly. I don't think they're locked out though. I even think that Platinum Games could go to Microsoft and say, hey, we're really sorry. Let's work something out. I'm sure they would be looked at a lot harder, but I don't even think the door's closed there, to be honest with you.
They said it recently, right? They recently apologized?
Yeah, he apologized like 2 years, 3 years later, and I don't think he specifically asked them countless times. Now, can we make Scalebound? I'm sorry, can we make Scalebound? And
I don't think they're going to let them make Scalebound.
They've already said. They've already said specifically like that's never happening. Like we give you the opportunity.
So let me ask you the question. Let me ask you a question. It's totally hypothetical. What happens if Microsoft does buy Sega and they own Bayonetta? Who's going to make Bayonetta 4?
That's a different story. That's a different story.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily have to make Bayonetta. Anybody can make Bayonetta if
magic
you get the right
hold on.
I will say give Bayonetta to Ninja Theory and let them
somebody, anybody can make a platforming shooter, whatever the hell.
I'm more thinking about like a funded, like an actual funded project like Ori was, and like Microsoft was helping with Scalebound. That was a funded exclusive that they well and truly messed up from scratch.
Yeah.
That Microsoft took the hit for when it went wrong, and only years later have they come out and said, "No, that was our fault."
Yeah,
getting the arrows for it. Yep.
Yeah,
100%.
I do. If we could just fork in it,
they might be the bigger man and not say anything publicly about it.
Right.
And just say, listen, we're not going to ruffle feathers out in public, air our dirty laundry.
Yeah.
But it's a different story behind closed doors.
That's
different story.
That's just my opinion. I think they would be willing to do business in the future. I mean, that's my take on it. But then again, what they did with Scalebound is on a completely different level than this guy just speaking out a little bit with what he had on his mind at the time. So I think they'll do business again. I think if there were to be an Ori 3, I see no reason why. Yeah.
This one's just a little bit more strange though, because he had two well-received critical games with Xbox at the helm and funding it.
Yeah.
And now he decides to be critical about it.
Yeah. Oh, I don't understand it. I was, especially when Mag was talking about it, I was like, the bite the hands that feeds thing, it stuck with me. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly how I felt. Like, why would you do this? I mean, in this instance, why would you do that? It makes no sense to me. So I don't know, man. But yeah, that's my take.
Hey, I would just like to go back for a second to your point about Microsoft buying Sega.
Yeah, well, that's a.
I didn't know you had that on the topic list.
Yeah, forget about it for sure. Listen, folks, thank you so much for being here. We're already an hour in. We got almost 400 people here, 390 people, which is awesome. Of course, we'd love to see that grow to 500, 600, 700, 1,000, 1K watching, and hopefully you're going to enjoy the banter enough to come back next week when we do it. But we still have an hour plus left of the show, and now we're going to get into why. Everyone, I think, is here, and that is the big news with Halo Infinite getting incredible reviews. I pulled up Metacritic. It has now has it's currently sitting on Metacritic with 90 plus reviews at an 86 meta. Some of the big ones that we saw a Games Beat give it 100, Windows Central give it 100, a VG 24/7 give it 100. It received several 90s, 95 from Steve Orr. Xbox Tavern gave it a 93. Game Informer gave it a 93. We also have Game Over Greggy. Obviously, we know who that is. That is the guys at Kind of Funny. They gave it a 90 out of 100. Comicbook.com with a 90. The lowest scores that I was able to pull up that
Should I tell you about one of the lowest scores? Boom.
Sure.
From a Dutch PlayStation-centric website who recently scored Battlefield an 80 and then give Halo Infinite the 70.
Yes. And is that PlaySense?
Yes.
Yes, PlaySense, which I've never heard of, and no offense to PlaySense, I'm sure that they are, honorable people on over there. But Screen Rant gave it a 70. Gaming Bible, which I've never heard of, gave it a 70, and the 74 comes in at New Game Network, which are these are 4 sites that I've never. Screen Rant I heard of, the other 3 I did not.
I've never heard of Screen Rant doing. Don't they do like movies?
They do movies mostly, but they also do games.
Hey, real talk, real question here. Do Xbox sites, like just Xbox sites, like Xbox achievements or sites like that, do they do PlayStation reviews? I'm honestly asking. I don't know.
I haven't seen them, no.
No, I don't think so.
Do you guys do PlayStation reviews at Xbox era?
No, they would not. Yeah, so I mean, again, some of the other big ones, Destructoid gave it a 90. Dual Shockers, we've all heard of, gave it a 90.
Which is surprising because DualShockers is notorious.
They are. Twinfinite gave it an 8 out of 10. Guardian gave it an 8 out of 10. IGN Portugal gave it an 80 out of 100. But listen, folks. First of all, I want to bring this point up, and me and everyone were talking on the phone today. An 86 is a rock solid score. Just so you know, I know that maybe people want 90s. 90s would be great, but 90s don't really get you much because there's a game that's sitting at a 92 that's still out of the Game Awards, but we won't talk about that just yet. We're here for Halo. Obviously, this is a lot of us have been playing the multiplayer. As you see, I've been playing it like a fiend. I am literally halfway done with the battle pass. I got 50 levels in.
Just one quick thing. So, Live Supremacy says that Xbox owns both Ori game trademarks.
As far as I know, they own the publishing. That was
I did a bit of a hunting for it, and I saw that they own the publishing and distribution rights. I didn't see IP ownership, but maybe I stand corrected.
Yeah, listen. If Live Supremacy is correct, that's even more. So maybe that's where the salt is definitely coming from. Unfortunately, we will never know until someone writes a book. But folks, we're here to talk about Halo Infinite, and obviously, everyone is super excited. This is a big release, not just for Microsoft, folks. This is a big release for 343 Industries. They have really, listen, look. When people paint themselves into a corner, I feel bad for said people, but at the end of the day, they must take full responsibility. And some of the doubts and the questions that a lot of us had, and we weren't being toxic about it. We were just asking the questions, can 343 deliver on a good multiplayer? Case in point, yes, they have. It's absolutely incredible. Now, I know some people have a problem with the progression, but they are listening. Folks, they are listening to our, reach out to them and say, listen, I don't like this. And I'm sure that it might get changed one way or another. But again, we look at past helpings. Halo 4 had an incredible single player campaign, best graphics on the Xbox 360. Still, the game still looks stunning, right? Multiplayer, not so much. Halo 5 comes out. Well, again, my opinion on, I don't need to reiterate it. I did not like 5, and I was not the only one. There were a lot of people that did not like 5, but the multiplayer was fantastic with Warzone. Well, folks, they've done it. It appears that they have hit a home run both in multiplayer and single player. And obviously, this Wednesday we're going to get a chance to play the single player campaign, which a lot of people are enjoying. Some people, we've heard some quips. We've heard some, the ending is a little shocking for some. Some people didn't walk away. But Kay Asante, I want to go to you first because you pulled a good friend of this show, Jeffrey Grub's opinion on it, and he said something that pretty much for me is the flag or the stake into the ground. Please, by all means, take it away.
Yeah, so I woke up with Halo News Day, right? And first person I talked to, of course, was Mr. Everborn Saga about the Halo News Day. And
You're damn right.
The first review I happened to catch was Jeff Grubb's review, and he, everybody has their opinions. And since that time, I've watched Dealer's review. I've watched a few. I try to keep away from too much of the details, just their general impressions of what's available. Because like the rest of y'all, I'm gonna, headphones on, screw the world, play it, when
Indeed.
It's there. Yeah. But what I thought was quite interesting from what Jeff was saying was, even amongst all the other AAA Game of the Year contenders, and that would be that Xbox Game Studios has released, your Psychonauts 2s, your Forza Horizons. What's the game that went on PlayStation? I forget the right now. Deathloop, forgive me.
Deathloop, yes.
Among them, even they who deservedly are in the Game of the Year conversation, this is among the best that Xbox Game Studios has released so far.
Wow.
This is what he said, and obviously he writes for GamesBeat. GamesBeat gave it a 5 out of 5,
which is a perfect score. Now, not saying that every game is perfect because not any. I think we can all agree that even though it gets 100, doesn't necessarily mean there is anything wrong with it.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, in general, like of all the reviews I've listened to and I've watched and I've read, they're very, very interesting takes from different aspects. The lowest. The ones that I've read that I've heard that were a little bit more critical, Dealer's review, as much as he liked it, was pretty critical because he said the ending was abrupt and stuff like that.
He loved it, in fact, didn't he? He loved the game, and that was his
and
then
all of a sudden
it
stopped for him. Yeah, exactly. There was that. And shout out to G4, Adam Sessler back at it again. They were very critical of the campaign. They basically said the only thing that's saving grace is the fact that the gameplay, the moment-to-moment gameplay loop is so undeniable that you blink and you've been playing the whole game. But if that gameplay loop wasn't there, it wouldn't be like the rest of it wasn't as shining as in their estimation, right? They said they would have given it a 3 out of 5 if the multiplayer didn't get included, and now because of the multiplayer, they're giving it a 4 out of 5, right? So still divisive. Still, some people have a problem with the way the story is doled out and this and that. We do know, even though no one has said anything, and I think Microsoft, I hope that they mitigate that and they do something about that as soon as possible. We do suspect there will be more single player content to come, but no one has said that. Nobody has vocalized that. Where's your greenie coming out and saying, "Hey, this is only the beginning," right? Say that.
We only know that from the leaks. So this is the story.
Well, we also know that because they say it's a 10-year story, a 10-year plan. And when you say that,
yes,
we know what that means, right? But when you say that, it puts people's thoughts at ease that, hey, this is just the beginning of what you're seeing. We're letting a bunch of folks get their feet wet, and then before long, we'll hit you with another one and another one. That'll dissuade a lot of these little rough reviews here and there about where the story started and whatnot. But by and large, even the worst reviews are basically glowing, and then they say, "Well, then this happened that I didn't like it." But they're all glowing. The moment to moment, the stitching. I think Game On Daily, shout out to them, said that it was Breath of the Wild-esque in its open world. All these things that we thought when we first saw these campaign dribs and drabs come out, we were like, "Hey, they're pulling from a lot of sources," and it looks like they're definitely successful at that. So, I mean, I would say for the purpose of this conversation, if you were on the fence, then you're not a Halo fan, or you're not an Xbox player. Right. This is going to be essential gameplay for all of us who are there. So, I'm quite excited. I can't wait. I will be working that day, but I'll be sitting right here, and when 5:30 or when 1:30 rolls around, it'll be all right. Half the day, my boss already knows that I had some stuff with my house, so I'll be like, well, I gotta go speak to the bank and
the contractor and
yeah. And then I'll be now. I will say it will be quite unfortunate, and I know people have said it. That it is unfortunate to see that those missing features that were prominently discussed are really dragging some of those reviews down, right? Because even in instances where they're like, oh, it's a fantastic this and that, they always, as we said they always have to go, but there's no co-op. Oh, but we should have had co-op, which we knew that would be the Achilles heel, and it seems to definitely be the Achilles heel. But I will leave the saltiness to others. I'll just say, well, where is my Last of Us 2 multiplayer that I'm still?
And I'm glad you're segueing into that, because I want to bring that up. See, here's the thing. See, this is why we were talking privately, and this is not me being a fanboy. This is not being salty. This is a straight up reality. I'm going to bring the facts, and you tell me, guys, if I'm wrong, please by all means say boom. I think you got it wrong, and I'll be more than happy to listen to your opinion. Here's the thing. One of the biggest things to come out of The Last of Us 1, besides the incredible game, and it was an incredible game, it still is, it's an incredible story, it's an emotional story. I think outside of, I think as great as Uncharted is, I think it was this game that really set Naughty Dog apart, right? That's just, again, my opinion. Factions was the PlayStation's answer for multiplayer of everything Microsoft was doing with Halo, right? It was their coming out party, so to speak, and it did very well. And when it was confirmed that Factions was not going to be in Last of Us 2, it was a drag, right? A lot of people walked away from that with a bit of a distaste. Now, my distaste for The Last of Us 2 is because the story was absolute garbage. So I don't understand how it scored all that. In fact, I always say this: the Samurai game should have switched scores with it. I can't believe Ghost of Tsushima got as low as it did, and Last of Us 2 got as high as it did, because I thought Last of Us 2 story was a jumbled mess. Again, my opinion. But getting back to what people are talking about, my problem with this industry double standard is it always has to do with Microsoft. If Microsoft does this, it's not good. But if Sony does it, it's okay because they're the market leader. If Nintendo does it, well, it's Nintendo, and that's just the way they are. But when it's Microsoft, they're always held to a different leverage of standard, and it's annoying. And I think that this is one of those instances. Listen, folks, if you're a fan of Factions, and I know there's a lot of PlayStation fans that are, guess what? You haven't gotten that yet. And they promised it would be available, and you still don't have it, right?
The first Factions is still very much alive and kicking today. You can still play that today.
You can still play it.
Hasn't come.
Yeah, but that I've already said exactly where it's going, guys. They're gonna put Factions in with the remake of the remaster, the remake of the remaster of Part 1,
and make you pay $70 for it.
$105 for whatever.
And something, you're absolutely right, and
you're exactly what they're gonna do.
And there's no doubt about it. But again, it's that double standard now. Like I said, if I'm over exaggerating, please someone tell me. But OBM, I want to go to you next on this.
Sure.
Listen. The score, no, I'm not arguing with the scores. An 86, maybe it goes up a point, maybe it goes down a point. It's probably going to stay around an 86. It may even go to an 87 because there's still some prominent sites that are doing an in progress review, right? Mm-hmm. So we could see it go up a point. Hey, we could see it go up 2 points for all we know. Mm-hmm. Most of the reviewers, and there's 90 of them on Metacritic so far, are quite enjoying the game. Some enjoying it more than others. Mm-hmm. Where do you fall on the fact that two of what people find to be very important, and I get it. I've seen a lot of DMs that people are like, hey, Boom, you don't understand. I wanted to play this with my son. I wanted to play this with my dad because my dad played with me Halo Combat Evolved, and I absolutely get it. I 100% understand that if you're feeling a type of way, you have a right to. But I, as a reviewer, if I was able to review the game, I would review the game based on what was given to me. What do I have in front of me to review the game? The single player, multiplayer, review it. That's what it is. And that's how The Last of Us was reviewed. It wasn't like, oh, well, the game is really good and there's some emotional stuff in there, but man, I really like factions. You didn't see that one time. And that's the game of the generation. What are your thoughts on the fact that we don't have co-op and we don't have Forge?
Whew. All right. There's so many things to touch on right now.
Well, this is a conversational podcast, so by all means, take your time.
All right. A lot of things to touch on. I was actually, talking to people in our Discord today about this, and honestly, like I know, like Gertzman came out with something. He gave it a 4 out of 5, and then he even just said, hey, these review scores are antiquated anyways, basically is what he said. And I guess that's the place I first start. I mean, really, I look at reviews to kind of determine whether something, do a lot of people like it or not. Ghost of Tsushima, I think, got an 83. Spider-Man was 87. Last of Us scored much higher, and I, did The Last of Us 2, and it didn't really hit with me. Now, teach their own. I'm not really, going to pick apart each individual, reviewer and things like that. At the end of the day, you're talking about maybe what 100 people are, kind of determining the score in some imperfect formula. I think like OpenCritic takes the average of the single player and the multiplayer. So it's kind of weird. So basically the worst of the two drags it down rather than it being additive. So to me, that doesn't, like, as a data and analytics guy, that makes no sense. If you have something that's a 90, in your mind, and now you add on something and maybe that's an 80, all of a sudden now how does that bring that 90 to be equal? How does that bring that full package to be equal to less now? Like it's in some minds, it actually would have scored better if it never had a multiplayer. And some it's the reverse. And so, like I said, there's a lot of challenges with the way it is. At the end of the day, like really all Metacritic or any of the reviews really do is inform people, hey, should I invest my money? And I think with the Game Pass thing, what we're going to find over time is that it is, you're going to see it have a far less of an impact. It's because really now people are looking for, should I invest my money, but should I, spend some time to download it and put a couple hours in to see if it's something I like? And that's a whole different conversation. And I think with Halo, you're not going to have that problem. The real thing that I was interested in with Halo and the reviews, I wanted to see how Halo fans were scoring the game. What was their impressions of this game? 343 lost a lot of faith in different factions of the community over the last couple of games. And so to me, like, and I think you saw with a lot of the big outlets, they did put Halo fans to be the reviewers. And I think that's why you're seeing, like, it's one of those weird situations right now where the bigger outlets are seemingly averaging higher scores than the smaller ones. And I think it's, you read off some of those other ones, it's like, from a PlayStation site, there's not like I think what you're seeing is the Halo fans are giving this game, on average, it seems like it's getting over 9 from most Halo fans. And
yes.
Then from non-Halo fans, it's like, okay, I was looking for this to do something like Last of Us or move me in that way, or because they're talking about like, hey, the story didn't like hit in that kind of way, or just as a next gen experience, it didn't really, it feels like it's not doing anything new enough or something, and you're hearing two different things. So, when I look at those reviews, for me, it's not about the average Metacritic. I think people getting hung up on whether it goes 0.2 in this direction or that is the wrong thing, because at the end of the day, what's really going to define Halo is, what are people saying about this game a week after it launches, a month after it launches? And I think from what I've gathered and it was interesting what Grubb's review is actually really interesting, because I know Grubb's always said he's never been a Halo fan. I've always wondered about that, because I've listened to like what Grubb likes, and he likes sandbox games, and I'm like, Halo's like one of the ultimate sandbox shooters. It's like, so I always feel like Grubb must have played it on the wrong difficulty or something. I don't know. At least the old classics, or maybe he just wasn't engaged in those. Because I always felt like, based on what he always talks about with games and what interests him, like a sandbox, like not the 343 games, but the old Bungie games, I always thought would have resonated a little bit better. But hearing how that really clicked with him, even with Jez, when he's talking about some of the gameplay, and I know he has some issues with it too, but you just kept hearing that over and over. And I think this is a game, from what I'm hearing and talking to people, it's a game that's going to have legs. This is a game people are going to be playing a month from now. They're going to be playing again when the co-op comes out. And I did hear that as like a sore spot for a lot of people, because they're like, man, I kept looking around and going, this would have been a great environment over and over again, for co-op. And you saw that in a lot of reviews. So I think that there was a sense of what could have been, and then what will, eventually, right? So we know that's coming eventually. And yeah, overall, this is, and I was talking to, a friend of mine that's, was like, well, you should expect more. And I'm like, more for who? This was a game made for, this is a Halo game made for Halo.
Yes.
And I don't think people truly understand the task that 343 had. I saw some of the more negative reviews where they says, well, they played it too safe. First of all, I don't think it's possible to play it safe with the Halo game. Right. I mean, if anybody's seen Halo Reddit in the last few days, I've said this before, the Halo fans are not the shills. They're not people that are going to go and fight for 343 to get every little ounce of credit they deserve, for the console wars. For the most part, Halo fans are Halo fans first, and then the Xbox and all that stuff is like secondary to them.
Yep.
And they can be real. And again, I've been part of, like, and I say being part of the community, doesn't mean I do the things that have been going on, but I've seen it, right? Like, I've been in those forums, I've been on Waypoint, and it's a tough place, I think, for 343 to be at, because they had not only this base they lost the trust of, in terms of, I think both factions, in one way or another had their doubts. There was a split there. Then you have this other base that's like, that's not Halo fans that are saying the game needs to change. It needs to start needs to mature. Look what Sony's done with their franchises, and Halo needs to kind of move in that direction. And I think 343, from what I've gathered, I talked to somebody who's a reviewer, and I won't bring up their name, but for a prominent site, and they said I see no way that this game could, like, he was enjoying the hell out of it. He says, but I see no way that a Halo game can ever get over 90 because it's too divisive. It's like, if you go in this direction, you're going to make a lot of these people happy, but then this other group's not going to be happy. You go in this other direction, like, let's say they would have gone more to a full reboot mode, focus more on the spectacle and the graphics, but in order to do that, you had to sacrifice the sandbox. You would have gotten killed by the Halo fans, right? So there's really, I think, no way that, I feel like, for not having co-op, let's throw that in there. For not having co-op, I think they threaded the needle probably as well as they could. For the most part, I feel like the fans of the Halo franchise, when you read those reviews, most of those are over 9s. And that's not a little thing. The Halo base is, you had over 10 million people on PC. That's not including console. So there's tens of millions of Halo fans that still love the old, like the old sandbox design, the old art styles, the old music. That we wanted to see it freshened up. We wanted to see it evolve in a way, but without losing its identity. And I think, from that standpoint, like, I feel like they stuck the landing probably as well as you could have hoped. And at the end of the day, it looks like they have a foundation right now. We know this is just.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah, go ahead, man. I'm taking over the whole show.
Oh, yeah, no, not at all. Actually, you brought up a lot of really interesting points, and to your points, because I know you've spoken to folks who've done the reviews and more closely than we have. There's been this theory around the net that seems to suggest that the campaign is kind of like a remake or reimagining of Combat Evolved, almost a la Star Wars, how they remade basically beat for beat, right? And there's very similarities to Combat Evolved in the structure of the original Combat Evolved that's just been remade in this new engine. Have you heard that, or is that more just theory?
Yeah, I think some of that's taken out of context. This is a game that's meant to capture the spirit and identity of Combat
Evolved. Not necessarily the beat for beat actions.
No, in fact, no, it's not going to follow it all. I think it's going to be, well, first of all, like it's from. I think the best way to describe it is it's like what you would expect from a Combat Evolved 2 generations, 2 decades later. It is an evolution of what that was in terms of, and it does feel like that in the tone. And I know, Frankie was actually on Reset Era like 3-4 years ago, back when they were just barely talking about it before they ever shown any, before they showed the in-engine demo. And I remember he talked about it. They've been hearing the fans. They wanted, the fans wanted the identity of Halo back. They felt like, Halo lost its identity. If you ever would have listened to the toxic fans, which, the group Halo fans can be very toxic, and the way they've gone at, Halo, it's like, this doesn't feel like Halo anymore. It's lost its magic, basically. And so he talked about that. He says, we want to recapture that feeling that you got when you walked out of, you walked on it, the ring opened up for the first time, right? Like, and that open sandbox feel. So he talked about that. And I do think that they have recaptured that and they've evolved that. And they've been able to maintain their identity. And that's really, I think, when people talk about CE, it's like, it still retains that identity. It's not meant to be a complete overhaul or complete reboot, but it's also not. It's also a lot more expansive than CE, and there's just a lot more. There's things you could not have done back then that they're doing now. So, and I think people, sometimes they look at the visuals and say, well, this isn't really technically impressive. But if you really look out in that open world sandbox, like how expansive these like environments are. Like I played open world games, plenty of the big ones, and you get into the big wide open areas are usually barren, and then when you get into the areas where there's detail, you're kind of enclosed, right? So like this is like probably the most wide open spaces you'll be battling in, sniping through. It will be really interesting to see how they tie in the co-op, because I think that's where this is going to maybe feel next level, more than anything. So again, I really, and then you think about the grapple hook and things like that. So, they've really done some things to put them on like the solid ground now going forward, where they can build off this. This is a formula people trust now that it's everybody raves about the gameplay, right? Like even the people that were putting it down for other things, playing it safe or the story ending or whatever it was, everybody's, for the most part, I think it's been unanimous. They've nailed that gameplay loop. And you know what? Nobody ever, you are right, Boom, in some regards, because, I know there's a lot of people here who are Nintendo fans, right? Nobody ever goes, oh, well, this Mario, this hat thing is not enough. Mario needs to reboot and go into third person, sad dad mode or whatever. Nobody ever says that shit about like that or Smash,
To be fair, OBM, I have been saying quite some time I would like to play a game.
Besides Everborn.
Mario finds out the truth that Peach and Bowser have been dating living all together these years.
That's right.
And they just feel sorry for him. So
they keep moving every time he shows up.
And nobody ever says those. And that's the thing that does bother. Like, you're right. There is I don't think it's necessarily a Microsoft thing, because the Forza Horizon got great reviews. I think it's a Halo thing, and Halo is kind of held to this weird. It's in this weird in between spot. I just think it's, again, I agree with that reviewer. It's just it's too divisive to ever, because people want it to pull in different directions. And there's such a split in those. It's not like most people are pretty much aligned with this is what Mario should be. And if, they don't want it to pull too far into some other direction. But, Halo is different. And I said this on our podcast last week. I do think that Halo is the closest thing Microsoft, or maybe either one of the Microsoft or Sony, have to like a Nintendo kind of game. It's really based on. It's not based on it's not just based on just graphics or I don't know, just like tech. It's really like a refined experience, and when it's at its best, it's like when all these little things work together. It's like you walk out and the right music's hitting at the right scene, and you have just a perfectly fine-tuned sandbox. And that's when it's been at its best, which I don't, and some of the guys in my crew, they really like 4 and things like that. I really both those campaigns didn't hit it for me because I thought they did lose that identity. They did lose that sort of refined gameplay where everything sort of came together. It wasn't just the spectacle and the graphics were really good in 4, but it sacrificed a lot for this. From everything I've gathered, talking to everybody, this seems to have recaptured everything it needed to for Halo fans. And I think for Halo fans, this is probably going to be a 9+ game. Everybody else, I don't really care. I don't care. If they want to be 7s and that could be honest opinions and that's fine. It doesn't. To me, I think the fact that this is going to be a 9 to Halo fans is why this is going to resonate and it's going to have legs and they're going to continue to build off this. And next year, I think there'll be more people playing Halo in the fall of 2022 than are the fall of 21. So I think 343 needs to be commended for a pretty incredible job.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Let's get Wandering Dutch in on the conversation. Dutch, what are your thoughts on the review so far? Do you agree or disagree that Microsoft might, in fact, be be on a different level when it comes to these kind of things? So other companies can do things one way and it's fine and it's accepted because, like I said earlier, it's the market leader, so they're allowed leeway. We've heard that numerous times, and it's Nintendo, so they're just being Nintendo.
The Nintendo thing, we've said it all before ourselves, and I think the problem you've got with Nintendo specifically is that no amount of complaining by ourselves as podcasters would make them change, because the wider Nintendo hardcore fans do not care one bit about that. They are absolutely happy as Larry with everything they do, and nothing will change that ever. So we can try and make a change for them, but it's not going to happen. It makes no difference. We can shout till the cows come home. It isn't going to make a blind bit of difference how much we complain and say the Nintendo need to change, because they won't, because their community as a whole are perfectly happy with how things are. So we'll leave them be. It's not that they don't need to change, because they do. There's a lot of things they don't do right, but there's nothing we can do in our power to change that. Even I think as a collective, even if every news article came out and said it's horrific, they need to change X, Y, and Z, they wouldn't, because they are, in all intents and purposes, market leaders in every avenue possible. They sell the most first-party titles per machine sold, so they've got a better ratio of selling these. Their units are absolutely flying off the shelves like there's no tomorrow. They sell machines for fun. Switches just go. If you have a look at even just this last month's unit sales, I think I put it in the DMs earlier on, Switch is still by far the most sold product across the board by a long shot.
Chances are most people that are in the audience right now has a phone in their pocket that's more powerful than a Nintendo Switch, but that doesn't matter.
Much, yeah.
They still sell it.
I always wondered about that chart. Who's the blue one in the last column? Is that just total? That's like total worldwide?
No, blue is rest of the world.
Oh, okay.
So gotcha. The likes of UAE, etc.
Okay. Gotcha.
Like African, Asian, etc. So all that aren't included in European, America, and Japan. Every other nation.
And mostly those other blue, they don't get the first party like promotions like the rest those other countries do. They usually don't have entities in those countries. Those are just residual sales from all the other stuff. So these are the ones that are importing. These are the ones that get, you know, the dribs and drabs, and the hardware sales are usually 3-4 times as expensive as anywhere else. So it makes sense that they're usually less than anywhere else. So
okay, well, I learned something new tonight.
But yeah,
ladies and gentlemen, geography.
In terms of Sony, the reason they tread a little bit better is simply just based on how well they performed in the previous generation. We seen this with 360 and PS3, Xbox with the poster child. PS3 really didn't come out the gates well, and obviously telling people that they had to spend £600 on a console. And I think Xbox did the same thing. Oh, well, if you can't afford to get a second job and all that, like stupid comments like that both of them have made. But yeah, they're held to a different regard this gen because of the way they performed last gen. But the further they go into this gen and they do things wrong, then it'll be a different story towards the middle/back end. As I think quite a few reviewers have pointed out over the course of this week, even with Halo dropping, the reason the tone is shifting towards Xbox is because after such a bad generation of doing things wrong, they are now doing things right. So naturally, the tone is going to change. And they're going to report on it. And quite a few reporters have come out and said that now, and have said, of course, we're going to report when they're doing well, because they're doing well. It's just simple. When they're doing things bad, we're going to report on it.
No, you make a lot of sense.
But in terms of the reviews, it is. I'm gonna. One thing I did like that OBM said as well there from one of the lads he's been speaking to, was the point where it is going regardless of what happens in Halo, and there's a couple of franchises like this. Regardless of what happens in Halo, it will always remain decisive and probably will never hit that 90 mark. And primarily because it is always going to have a decisive fan base. Like, you're never going to be able to please all angles ever. And I've seen this through discussions with friends as well, and there's quite a few people getting worked up about it, and I understand their positions on it. My positions on games specifically is I never speak on them critically until I've played them. So I might see reviews, I might see news articles, I might see things going wrong with them, but I'm never going to say definitively this is my position on a game until I've physically played it myself. So, for instance, if the co-op's not in there, yes, I disagree with it. And for instance, now obviously there is no chapter select. You can't go and replay missions straight after the game. Obviously, after and do any of that like you could in previous Halos and select them and go and okay, I'm going to go and play this game. After you finish the game, you can't go and choose a story mission and then replay it at a certain difficulty. That's not in there either.
Is that a function of it being open world?
I think it's possibly to do with the direction, of it being open world. And obviously,
a lot of them did say there are no cuts.
Other people have pointed out certain other games do allow you to go and do this. Like some people point out Destiny as an example, which is an MMO, but it's a bit different. An MMO by design needs you to go back and be able to play certain things for certain weekly challenges, etc., and certain XP gains and whatever it is that they want to do in terms of that, whether or not they recycle it to bring in a different area.
I think the problem is, just from what I understand, and you guys can correct me, but I think because the whole idea is that you have to take these bases, if you now control that base, they can't repopulate them with enemies because that's a base you control.
You see, I don't know whether or not that's the case, because obviously having not played it, I don't know whether or not, and the guys themselves, I haven't seen the reviewers speak on this either, because I don't know how many of them have dug deep into the post game, because there is an end game in Halo Infinite.
Right.
And when you finish the end game, as I've seen in a couple of reviews, there are additional forts and places and stuff that become populated. So I don't know whether or not throughout the course of it, it's a bit more dynamic where some of the banished recapture certain positions and you have to go and fight for them.
That would be interesting. I hope that's the case.
Because that was, I mean, that was
defend.
That was
the places
kind of done. If anyone played Assassin's Creed Odyssey, they kind of did that. You'd capture an area, then you'd go back later on to find it had been recaptured again. You'd have to do the whole fight.
See, I said on our podcast, I don't want to see that. I want to see, I want to see a barren Zeta Halo with nothing but a stack of brute bodies, just and just kill everything and nothing. I wanted to like go out and hear nothing because I decimated all. Sorry, I just wanted to say that.
Just like in 300 where they've just got bodies of the dead just stacked up on a wall. Just
stack them up,
waiting
6
the
feet high.
coming in. Come on.
Well, if there is recapturing, I definitely don't want it until the campaign is over.
Yeah,
I would imagine that's probably when if that is going to happen.
That's where you can grind achievements and stuff.
Yeah. Exactly.
Get X amount of kills for this, that, and the other thing. You can go back
and
to
of course, go and collect the skulls. Obviously, they've still got skulls in there, etc.
Yeah. You know, you're bringing up some good points, and I should shut up because I know I talked a lot, but I did want to mention one thing that I know about the reviews. A lot of the reviewers did not go chasing a bunch of the collectibles, the extras, the armor.
They played the story beats.
Yeah, and the reason they said there was a good reason for it. They said, "Hey, you know, we're going to have to redo," especially for those people that really like Halo. They're like, you know, none of this stuff carries over to the final copy, so they're like, we're going to have to go redo all this stuff for our achievements. So I was like, they're waiting for the completionist run there, and I think you're going to see, because I've seen some videos from some of the guys that do like Halo content where they're showing them like going like some really interesting ways that they kind of hide some of these collectibles and things, and some of the stuff that you'll be able to even show off in the multiplayer. So I think this is going to add some other layers, and you got to remember that the game that's being scored right now is only going to like the stuff's only going to really go up when people start applying this stuff, eventually the co-op and things like that. So it's really only going to go up from there. But I just want to throw that out there because I think that's a little bit of insight that a lot of reviewers really weren't encouraged because of the way that the build was made, so that it's not going to carry over. They weren't really encouraged to go do a completionist run, which I think is part of this experience, honestly.
Yeah, I did see that in a couple of them. Actually, you are right. A few of them said this in the preview build that I have. It doesn't allow us to carry progression over, so I haven't went to go and do collectibles and do all the stuff. But I can't wait. But at the same time, and there's another thing, they're all saying, but I can't wait to replay the game again. Like, I love the game that much. I can't wait to just dig back into it. So the major points that I've found are primarily the story is good and divisive. The ending is divisive. I've seen a few people say that it was quite abrupt. They understand why they've done it, but they don't agree with why they've done it, because obviously it's a 10-year plan. And people just want to see the end of a current story first, etc. We'll see what that is when we've played it ourselves. A few people disagreed with those comments as well. Again, it's a divisive game, as you mentioned before, OBM. Not everyone's going to be happy with the story, the way the story's put out, or how they do things, and that's fine. Everyone's entitled to an opinion. Halo, on the other side, like you say, some of those die-hard Halo fans are extremely vocal and can be toxic. But
Dutch, let's call
the game and not the brand.
Dutch, let's call a spade a spade. Halo fans are lunatics.
Yeah,
and I count myself as one of them. So
no, you're not. Airborne, don't do that.
I mean, we have a podcast about one game. I mean.
Don't do that. People out there that will throw themselves out the window because the flamingo doesn't have like a specific fin on like the wing or whatever. It's like shut up and play the game. You know what I mean? Like enjoy yourself.
There are levels to lunacy.
I know. Yeah, but Everborn, you're nowhere near that. Trust me, I've seen those guys. They're completely out of their minds.
Yeah,
well, literally got nothing else going on.
Well, you know, being that you're talking, Meg, I want to go to you next, if that's okay.
Of course.
Yeah. One of the things that I saw, one of the comments that I saw that I thought was very interesting, and I want to get your take on this.
Sure.
One of the reviewers, I'm not going to say who it was. Go find this out for yourself. It's just I just want to get Mag's opinion on this. Said that because the multiplayer is free to play, it puts Halo in a bad spot because the game may not be worth $60. Now, I don't agree with that, considering this is going to be a 10-year plan, and everything that you get moving forward is just going to be DLC that you download for free, right? So I don't understand what that exactly means. What are your thoughts on that?
Funny you mentioned that, because I also felt the same way about Ratchet and Clank, that you can literally platinum in 11 hours for $105. But, what do I know, right?
Yeah. What do you know?
That's just people just being ridiculous. They try to do, it's something that we've always talked about. We've talked about it again and again and again, is that everybody wanted competition. Now that they've got it, now they're trying to pick it apart, right? Because now they're threatened and scared by it. That I'm just going to push that aside.
Because they did not want competition, man.
They didn't want competition. They just say that. Exactly. That's where you see the true colors. Anyhow, in regards to this Halo situation, first of all, shout out to Activision. My God, their douchebaggery knows no end.
Yes, to talk about
they're releasing the new Warzone map the
and no
same
one's gonna
day
care.
as Halo.
No,
can you not give? What's that, Boom?
No one is going to care.
The thing is, do these guys have no class at all?
What about Sony? They dropped. Hey, by the way, over here, we're here. Well, we're here. Horizon Zero Dawn next year.
Yeah,
don't forget about us.
You remember what I said? I said it a couple times now. They sound like, especially this year, they sound like the kids' table chirping a little bit too loud during Thanksgiving, and that's where you're like, guys, keep it down over there. Adults are talking. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. That's kind of how what Sony's doing. Because when what's it called? Forza Horizon 5 came out, they're like, but we have Gran Turismo. And they were like, just shut up over there. Okay. You don't have anything right now. Polyphony. It'll probably be delayed till 2028. Anyways, that's besides the point. I just wanted to bring up the Warzone thing because I think that was very tactless, to be quite honest.
Of course it does. Of course it was.
But that's Activision. Tactless at best. Now, here's the thing that I'm going to find a little bit interesting. I'm going to go two ways with this. Is that I do take a little bit of issue. I was watching Dealer's review and a couple of other guys' reviews, and I was listening to what they were saying. And you guys brought it up as well. I have zero context, okay, because I haven't played the game, obviously, right, and I haven't played the story. So in terms of how I feel about it, obviously I have zero context as to where the story's going, how it ended, whether it ended too abruptly, whether it was too controversial, whatever.
Well, when we beat it.
When we beat it, we can revisit that. However, yes, I will say this, is that, I think Dutch said it actually, this is a 10-year game. There are going to be 10 endings to this game. Once a year, they're going to have another story beat thrown in there, right? A DLC or something. So it's not one ending. This is one of 10 endings. So, the way I look at it then is that now I'm looking at, you got to see the whole picture. You got to see how it evolves, how it morphs into a more comprehensive story arc, right? So that you can look. It's like, okay, here's a great example. That's like trying to review like a series on TV based on the first show. My brother and I, we just had this discussion actually last week. He was kind of pissing me off because we were talking about Dexter, and he says, I didn't like episode 1 of Dexter. I don't think it's gonna be. So I punched him, and then after I punched him, I said,
in the face.
Obviously it's my brother, and I'm like, you need to see the whole season. Maybe we need to sit down and see the whole season and understand exactly where it's going, like the scope of it, right? Like the scope of where the story's going. Now, that also being said, it also needs to stand on its own two legs.
Yes.
So even if it is one story of 10, let's say, it still needs to stand on its own. I'm not going to say it's like the end all just because it ended, it ended abruptly. The Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Ring ended very abruptly.
It sure did. I thought the movie was going to continue, and I thought they was just starting the journey,
and then
it's over. Like, what happened?
You're like, all right. It's like, let's go to Mordor.
On that point, Mag, I mean, think about Halo 2 to 3. How much different does Halo 2 hit now when you play Halo 3 right after it versus the way you felt at that time?
Right, exactly. Now that's a thing too. But yes, you're excited about they're going to Mordor, okay? And you're like, yeah, let's go to Mordor. And all of a sudden, and you're like, directed by Peter Jackson, right? And then you're like, shit.
Here's the thing, right? You always have to go under the assumption that the world could end tomorrow, right? So
That's
you
what
have
I'm
to go
saying,
by
Everborn.
what you have.
That's what I'm saying, Everborn. It's still, even if it's one part of like a larger story, it still has to be comprehensive enough to stand on its own two legs. So it has to be open-ended, yet complete at the same time.
There is a difference between a cliffhanger
Yes.
and an abrupt ending.
But
right? And that's the question.
Right, exactly. I agree with you 100%, Everborn. But here's the thing also. None of us on this panel have played it. So therefore, we don't know yet.
I'm looking at OBM right now.
Nah,
I say in about 3 weeks, a month, however the hell long it takes everybody to get through it. I think that we should revisit it and then have that exact same conversation.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that's I think it'll be a great idea. Now, anyways, besides that, the last thing I was going to say is Asante was talking about it, and so is OBM. The co-op thing. That's the last thing I was going to talk about. The co-op and the Forge. The Forge is fine. It's fine that you're going to wait a little bit on that. That's whatever. It is what it is. That's just a supplementary part of the game. Yes. I don't believe that co-op is a supplementary part of the game in terms of like, oh, this is just it's a little thing. You know what I mean? It's not a little thing. It's an essential part of Halo. And it's fine that it's not there right now. It's coming. We get it. And I also understand how some of the reviewers, I do agree with them. I understand how they feel. They're like, man, I just wish I could have played this with somebody. Or you get to a certain section and be like, oh, man, that would have been so much fun if I had Boom on the wheel and me on the back and on the stationary gun of the Hedgehog or Warthog, whatever the hell it's called. And you know what I mean? Like you think of those moments and you could see the potential of where the co-op would go. And I could see where there's some form of, minor disappointment in it. Right. I understand.
So I will say something, Mag, yes. To be fair, and I've watched a bunch of those reviewers myself.
Yes.
The ones that tended to lean more into, hey, we needed the co-op more, were the people who weren't really into the lore. If you're not there for the real lore, you kind of want to play with your buddy. But I did hear a lot of, hey, whether the co-op was here or not, you'll want to play this by yourself at first.
Well, see, that's the thing. You know what, Asante? I've actually played all Halo games solo. I've played a few of them, farting around with Cybernox as he's trying this gargantuan undertaking.
And shout out to him because he's really helped me relive those glory days with Halo.
Yeah, it's great.
It's been pretty awesome. Yeah.
But when the Master Chief Collection came out, I played every single one of those games, and plus all the other ones, Reach and everything else.
By myself.
I played them all by myself. Mm-hmm, right? I didn't play a story with somebody else because I don't like doing that either. I don't want to be sitting there and all of a sudden, the guy I'm playing with is like, the big emotional moment. And, all of a sudden Chief is like, Cortana, what are you doing? And all of a sudden all you hear is as the guy's eating Doritos or something. I'm like, dude, shut up, man.
Or the people that want to skip through the cutscenes.
Oh,
yeah, the skip through the cut. Like, see, that's I get too distracted. And that's another thing. I don't like being in parties where I'm playing two separate games and the other person's just sitting there and I'm listening to them breathe. And I'm like, what are we doing here, guys? Why am I listening to you breathe? Like, get out of here. Go play a game.
My co-op buddy's like really cool. So he might have already played through it already, but then he'll sit there and if a cutscene comes up, he'll be like, do you want to skip it or do you want to leave it? Oh, we'll just leave it. So he's cool like that. I'm glad I've got a co-op buddy that does that, but I understand.
See, the thing is,
there are
Dutch,
two kinds of people, right? Yeah. There are people who watch the cutscenes on the first playthrough, and there are sociopaths. That's it.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like I said, I'm going to cut this off now, but I could ramble all night about it. But it's just, yes, I look forward to the co-op when it does come out, and that's going to be really great. I'm going to play it with my son. He wants to play Halo 5 right now. He's a 9-year-old kid. And he's like, I want to play Halo 5 with you because we can't play the new one together yet. So I'm like, all right, let's do it. That's great. We're going to play that. However, I want to experience the game, the story, the everything else. I want to experience it single player. He will too. He'll play it single player. He's finished them all on his own and every single campaign on his own. So he could do this one too. And that's fine. That's great. So, we'll get to it later. We'll, maybe they'll have some more achievements down the road or anything like that, where they'd be like, finish this and that in co-op and whatever else, because I'm going to try and complete it, right? So, anyways, all in all, I'm very excited, very happy. I really, really look forward to Wednesday. What is it, 87 or 86 now?
86.
Sitting at an 86.
Okay,
Everborn next week, not this week, next week, you need to pull up. Remember, you wrote down all our predictions?
Yeah.
You need to say it next week. Not today, because you know it's going to go up or down a little bit. Next week, I think you need to call it out and see who actually won.
Okay.
I'd be curious to see. But anyways, I'm going to stop talking.
No, listen, good stuff as always. Tempest, let's get your opinion on this. Where do you fall with some of the complaints with the reviews? There hasn't been many. The reviews have been pretty good, actually. What are your thoughts?
Were you talking to me, Boom?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't hear it. Sorry. I read a few of the reviews. I mainly listened to more so on YouTube. I watched them. It's honestly, I find it kind of strange how certain games get docked points for stuff in it or not in it instead of being kind of reviewed based off of just what the game is at the time, you know? Like I think you mentioned it earlier, and if you don't forget me, but I find it funny that one of the best reviewed games of all time, apparently The Last of Us 2, wasn't docked for not having the factions mode. Like that was very but there's a lot of people complaining about Forge and co-op not being there, you know, so I find that very strange. When Breath of the Wild was heralded as being like the best thing since sliced bread, well, to me, Zelda is the in-depth dungeons that take you 2-3 hours to get through. You know, they were not in Breath of the Wild. I mean, there was like little dungeons, but you know, nothing of the sort of what used to be in like Ocarina of Time or anything like that. So I don't know. That complaint to me kind of didn't make any sense, to be honest with you. Complaining about Forge, I understand it's not there, but why bring it up? I mean, if it's going to be added, it's going to be added. At least review it. And also, this is kind of random, but thinking of this too, like I remember Tomb Raider, the reboot, 2013, right? That game got knocked so severely in the reviews. I thought that game was magnificent. Easily my game of the year that year. One of my favorite games of all time. I love that game. But it got docked in the reviews heavily because the multiplayer wasn't good. And even a lot of reviews at the time were like, if the multiplayer wasn't there, we could rate it better, you know? Yeah, so I don't know. It's just strange. It's just a weird thing. Some people are going to knock it. Some people aren't. I hate the fact that Metacritic means something. I hate the fact that the reviews do kind of matter. You can sit there and say meta who all day long. At the end of the day, it's meta who to you if you don't go by reviews and you just want to play the game. My suggestion for everybody is just find your favorite YouTuber, a guy that you, for the most part,
trust.
Yes. Yep. Like one of my most trust, and I don't trust him on everything, but like I trust ACG a lot.
I listened to his was really good. I listened to it this morning.
Yeah, and he's hyped. If you've listened, I've been a patron of his for forever, and you know, I love that guy. So, but I know when he's really excited about something and when he's not. He's really excited about Halo right now, like you can tell. And so I look at that and it gets me really excited when he goes on about the sound design and how good it sounds. That's awesome to me because I just booted it up on the Series S and where I have the surround sound. It sounds phenomenal. So, you know, I jive with his opinion. So that's just my I guess advice is just find somebody you trust, watch their opinion, or listen to it and go from there, you know, if you trust them. But I don't know. Yeah, we're at this weird place where sometimes if it fits one group's narrative, Metacritic matters, and then the next second it doesn't. At the end of the day, though, 86 is a rock solid score.
Yep.
That's not easy to do.
But you know what I'll say to that though? You know who I do trust about what I'll like is me.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, with Game Pass, I really think yes. I know Metacritic is just like this thing for Twitter. I really think at the end of the day, how people feel when they play that will be the key. You know,
well, see, that's the key thing. You made the most sense anybody's going to make tonight right there. It's on Game Pass. And that is a very unique thing to the Microsoft games.
Makes the reviews kind of, it's like, oh, is it good enough for me to even spend
to download it?
And at this point, Halo, you're going to download
it. To your point, OBM, even with people you trust, that doesn't mean you will have the same feeling as them. You can trust their integrity, but only you will know when you play it how certain things are going to hit you. Yep. And you know, and so the reviews can only take you so far.
I will say this, just to top off for me anyways, the whole Halo topic is it's been a while. And I think I really do mean this. It's been a while since collectively everybody is enjoying it, or at least says the gameplay is rock solid. The analytics of anything Halo right now is massive. Absolutely anything. I've never played more games with more people in my general little circle in years, and it's because of Halo. Everybody I know is playing it, like everybody. So it's a massive game. It deserves to be there. You know, it's the king of shooters for a reason. And I think I can't wait to play the campaign, but I think 343 nailed it this time. So just my hat's off to them. So
yeah, and it was definitely an undertaking for sure. There's no doubt they had the pressure of the world on their shoulders, and I think they delivered not in just one area, but both. But Everborn, close us out with your opinion regarding the current scores at 86. I mean, do you agree or disagree with the double standard that we're starting to see regarding, again, the easiest one to bring up is The Last of Us 2's multiplayer not being there, still not there to this day, and we know why they're holding it. They're holding it because they're going to charge you $70 for the remake and factions, because that's what Sony does. But what are your thoughts?
I don't even think, and that all of that is true. And I think that I think Halo, it is sort of a victim of its own success, that it, and I'm taking out all the disingenuous takes, right? There are people that have just been down on Halo from the beginning at every moment until it was irrefutable, right? Right? There's people that just kind of had every negative take possible until the multiplayer came out and everyone was raving about it, and then they couldn't deny that anymore. And then from there they were like, well, the campaign's going to come in hot. And from the campaign, now the campaign reviews are out, and now they're saying, well, it's fun, but, and you know what they tell you, don't pay attention to anything before the word but, with what people are trying to tell you. So I say all that to say, I think that for the people that are genuinely worried about it, the overwhelming consensus, even in the worst reviews, is that this is an amazing foundation of a game. Everyone, and I'm talking about the 4 people that gave it 70 and Forbes that gave it a 75, right? All of them said the gameplay loop and the gameplay itself is top notch and everything you would want, and some of the most things they've ever played. And I am sorry if we are in a world where gameplay is not king. Why are we gaming?
Yep,
right?
I understand. Yes.
Right. So and then listen, and it's not just the gameplay, because I watched two reviews. I watched Digital Foundry and I watched Dealers, right? The way that Digital Foundry talked about the technical aspect of this and how the amazing feat of this open world at this fidelity, at this performance level in terms of frame rate is a gargantuan task. And you cannot point to me someone else who is doing this, what they're accomplishing here at this level.
Yep.
Right. And they made very specific choices in the face of no one giving them the benefit of the doubt. No one. And I'm talking about their own fans on top of the zealots and naysayers and all those things. So to be in a place where 100% of the reviews say that it's one of the most fun things they've played in a long time is crazy. Right? Now, the thing is, we've said this, we've discussed this many times. I've said it. We've all acknowledged this. It was going to be docked points for missing co-op and Forge. And, you know, we suspected people would dock points because of the dress up progression, right? The lipstick for that everybody's upset about, right?
Barbie dress up, yes. Barbie dress
right.
up. Continue.
So people want to play their tea house and things like that. So they need to dress up, right? But we said that, right? Man. So in a world where it is docked points and we are 75 reviews into this thing, right?
Actually, it's 90.
Well, that's 90 if you include PC, but and I'm looking at Metacritic. Maybe OpenCritic is higher. But Metacritic has 75 reviews right now. Resting started at an 87, dropped down to an 86. Listen, Metro UK gave this thing an 80. Right? Mm-hmm. So the point is, right, what I was looking at for this and what I've been saying for some time now is that I wanted to see an 85 and higher. And I'm very specific with that number because what was happening, although all of 343's endeavor into the Halo universe have been, there's 3 of them if you count Master Chief Collection. So that's 87, 85, and 84. Those are banger numbers, as the kids say, right? But
damn kids,
trending.
Damn kids.
I'm sorry, Mr. Bad Bit. I apologize. But it was trending downwards. So an 85 or higher tells us it is trending up in the face of a world that maybe has forgotten about the Master Chief. In the face of look at the Metacritic scores for Call of Duty, Vanguard, and Battlefield 2042 right now. Look at those. And look where this at. So currently,
this is a bang. This isn't. I said this before. I've said it on the Xbox or Factor podcast numerous times. This is probably the best year in first-party gaming Microsoft has seen in a decade.
Well, speaking of that, we can look at what they released, and I will not include Deathloop because even though it's a studio, we don't have that game till next year, so I'll include it in next year's number, right? We have released since calendar year 2021. What do we have? Flight Sim, 90, right? Psychonauts 2, 87, right? We have Forza, 92. We have Age of Empires, 82. And now we have Halo at an 86. That puts us, I think, or 80. When I did it, it was 87. So that math was like 87.8 or something like that, right? That's the average for the year of their first party, right? And if you want to add the full year, because then you'd add Hive Busters and Gears Tactics, and that was bring us to an 86.9, right? That's a sample size of 7 games.
Yeah.
Right? So this is what we're talking about in terms of what they're doing with first party. And Halo is important because if you look at the conversation around Halo and the controversy and the lack of faith in 343 and Microsoft to bring this thing home, to be at an 86 trending upwards, right? And we know it was docked points rightly or wrongly, and I'm with you, Tempest. You should review a game based on what it is, not what you think it you know what's coming in the future. Review the product based on what it is. But we knew, because we're logical, we knew that it would deduct points. So it's an 86 marked with the deduction of not having co-op and Forge and issues that people have.
So Everborn, real quick to add a little fuel to your fire there. You were talking about OpenCritic. I just happened to open up OpenCritic. They too have an 86 as its review score, right? But interestingly enough, they also calculate the percentage of critics that recommend it. 94% of critics that reviewed it recommend it.
But and that is my point. Everyone,
so
you can
it's
go
to speak to that moment-to-moment thing. Everybody's like, oh, it might be this, it might be that, but you got to play it.
And don't let anybody, because what you know that I'm deep in the Twitter streets. right? Don't let anybody try to tell you, all they care about is that it's fun. Yes, clown. Of course, that's what you care about for a game. So the game, everyone, 94% of the people, like you said, recommend the game. Everyone acknowledges how fun it is. This is a victory lap and a comeback story. And hats off to 343. And I hope they get a holiday break, because God damn it, they deserve it.
100%. Well, listen, folks, what a great 2 hours. We had almost 400 people here today. And you know what? I could not have asked for a better panel to talk about, obviously, the opening with Moon Studios comments, and of course, closing out the incredible podcast with the Halo Infinite scores. I wish it was Wednesday already, to be honest with you. It cannot get here quick enough. I'm a little saddened that it's not launching Tuesday at midnight, that I have to wait until 1 p.m. To play it, which, it is what it is, but I'm looking forward to it. I really can't wait. What I think is going to be a lot of fun is those water cooler moments where you are going to find a boss that maybe I didn't. And you'd be like, you're not going to believe the weapon that I got, or the upgrade, or this. And listen, they brought an RPG element to Halo. I don't know how that's not different enough for some people, to be honest with you. I think it's extremely different than just your corridor shooter. You're tight niched, you're on the ship, you're off a ship, you're fighting a bunch of grunts, they explode and they run from you. It's the same old stuff. This looks so much better and such a lived-in world that you're going to be on this Zeta ring. I can't wait. But listen, folks, I want to say a big thank you to everyone who tuned in for tonight's program. I want to thank all the super chats that came out, and I don't want to. There were a few that I missed, so let me just grab. Danny Passion Official drops an outstanding $5 super chat. Says, I put down Halo PvP to play Battlefield 2042. I've been having a blast. The game is amazing. Don't let the reviews hold you back. I'll be back to Halo tomorrow. Yeah, I'm not playing Battlefield until it's free. I'm not paying for that trash.
Should have been in Game Pass.
Yeah, it should have been in Game Pass. If it was in Game Pass, I might have tried it, but I probably wouldn't give it any light because, well, nothing is more important than Halo at this point. And we also have Faisal Assam, drops very generous $2 super chat, says, one bad mother is one smart cookie. Great points. Indeed, he is. And speaking of one bad mother, by all means, brother, sell your brand. Tell everyone where they can watch your incredible You Had Me at Halo program that is weekly. And of course, talk about what you do over at Xbox Era. And by the way, I have good friends, and I'm friends with everyone at Xbox Era. They have a Kickstarter. I don't know if it's finished yet. I think it's still going. Why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, I first of all, Boom, thank you again for having me. It was a lot of fun. As you could tell, I enjoy talking about Halo. I don't know how long that went. It probably was probably a lot of, probably said close to a record in terms of words without a breath. But I do appreciate the opportunity to come on. It's always fun with you guys. Yeah, and that's the number one thing I wanted to talk about today. We are, if anybody is listening, been a fan of Xbox, and of course, why wouldn't you be? Definitely need to check out this Kickstarter. It's a book.
It's awesome.
And it's probably something that, well, it's going to be like something like nothing you've seen on the market and probably won't ever see again. So if you are a fan of the history of Xbox, it's something you're going to want to check out. We do have a very talented artist from Xbox Era that and John's pulled in just some top people to put together a super high quality book, and it's a tabletop one. Now I do have the link. Do you want to just post it in the chat?
Yeah. Drop it into the chat, brother. Absolutely.
All right. So I'm going to throw that the Kickstarter link in the chat. Everybody, just check out the video on it. I think, like I said, if you're a fan of the Xbox, you got to check this out. We are getting very, very close to hitting that goal.
Y'all had me at Seamus Blackley, man. Y'all had
me. So
I was on the dotted line, baby. It's done.
It's just I'll let you guys watch the video for yourself. It's very, very cool. Super high quality, a tabletop book. It's a collector's item, and there's probably not going to be anything else out there like it. Other than that, yes, I do co-host a Halo show. It's all about Halo. It generally runs bi-weekly. We've been going weekly during the stretch here coming up, and so we'll be going again. Yeah, I mean, there's lots to talk about every week, right? You can tell. This week, normally it's on Thursdays. This week, because of the Game Awards, we will be going on Friday. So catch us there if you want to talk more about Halo. I expect I'm going to be no-lifing this thing on Thursday, and I think that we already have a guy in the crew that's already reviewed it, tune into us if you want to talk more about it. Other than that, I write over at Xbox Era, and if you haven't been to our forums, go jump in there and chat with us. You can go and talk about games without the trolls. Hopefully, report them if you find any. But other than that, again, thanks, guys. It's always a fun time to come here.
Yeah, well, it's great to have you. And Kay Asante, by all means, sell your brand, brother. Tell everyone about your Saturday morning program with obviously the slanderous one, and we'll talk to him in a second about the Thursday show, which
sure.
There's a lot of movie news to talk about, specifically with Marvel, and can't wait for the next episode of Hawkeye, because
yes.
You saw that handshake wearing that
don't do it.
You heard that news that Kevin Feige said today about who coming back as what.
That would be Charlie Cox coming back.
I'm still holding out hope for Luke Cage. I'm still there. I'm still holding.
Well, we know Jessica's coming back. We know that they want to bring back the Punisher. They did not say anything about bringing either of those guys back. Please,
I'm gonna be that guy. Don't leave the black man out.
Don't be that. I'll tell you this right now.
Well,
I will say this:
as long as they don't bring back Finn Jones.
There you go.
Finn Jones is out.
Leave that man
out.
We can
all agree to that. We can all agree. No, I'm still holding out hope for Luke Cage, specifically Mike Coulter's Luke Cage. I thought he did a great job.
Mike did it great. I thought he was a I didn't like the way it ended with him being like a pimp daddy kind of a.
It went off the rails, but I think
it kind of went off the rails a little bit.
Well, I mean, historically, they did kind of use that as kind of a blaxploitation thing, so it kind of makes sense. But today's.
Sneak peek of On the Reel for you, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, well, there you go. Talk about it. But anyway, listen, please tell everyone about their Saturday program. It's fantastic. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you. Yes. A lot of people have been checking it out. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys all for coming to check out the show. Last Saturday was awesome. We were going to have all the crew from the Talk Story podcast, but only Blind Giant was able to show because there was some life issues, but he came and he represented, and it was absolutely awesome. We were actually going to talk about, we were going to do some light reflections, as it were, and give some roses to those who deserve it. But we ended up going pretty in depth in that Sony conversation, which I did see some of you folks in the chat wondering if we were going to touch on that today. Cheap plug: go check out all the Gaming Circle podcast from Saturday, and myself and Everborn and a few, and even the Dutchman himself were we were vocal about what we thought about it and all that. It was a great episode. So. We appreciate all of you who have checked it out already, and all of you who will check it out on demand. I might put a clip out there. The man was ranting a little bit. Maybe I'll put that rant on the internet.
Do it. I told you, clip it, put it out. I'm not scared.
You never scared, bro. You never scared. Anyway, so yes, thank you guys for checking out the show. You can find me TKO Asante on Twitter, Xbox, all the various sources. I will also be online playing the Halos. Probably we'll get more into the multiplayer as the days progress, as we get towards the day of campaign, in which case you won't see me online for a good while. So there you go. I appreciate everybody for checking out the show again, and we'll probably see you guys again next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Mitchie dies a lot in the chat. Says Michael Calder is in the show Evil, which he might be under contract. Evil was, if you haven't seen it, is
it's
really
pretty damn good.
Yeah,
it's really good. Yeah, it's season 2 is over there. It's fantastic. Yep. But Dutch, by all means, brother, talk about what you got going on. Where could people team up with you in your big, ridiculous 24-man parties that you have, 12v12, and also talk about your show. Are you guys doing one this Wednesday?
We're not doing one this Wednesday. No, I've let the guys have the night off to play Halo.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
We'll be doing it on Thursday. Of course, the Game Awards UK time doesn't start till midnight. So for us, we've got plenty of time to have a show on the night time as opposed to doing that. I might be covering the Game Awards. I haven't decided yet.
I'm not covering it. Too long.
Still up in the air, and of course, with time-wise, whether or not we might just sit in a party and watch it, and see what happens. But yes, otherwise, it would be every Wednesday.
Will be shown
this
there.
Week, Thursday.
Real quick, Halo TV show will be shown there. Even a small clip of it. 343 has already said so. So you should check that out at least.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Good.
I'm
sorry. Anyone and everybody who's got me on Xbox can jump into these wild custom games that we have going, or big team battles. Party's always open. Everyone's free. Everyone's available to do it, of course, as long as you just keep it friendly, keep it banter. We don't mind. Have your bit of slander, but just keep it friendly. It's always a good time. We always do a good mixture of game modes to try and appease everyone, whether that be 4v4, whether that be big team battle, custom games, free for alls, you name it. We try and do a bit of everything so everybody has a good laugh. Next week will be our last one for this year. And then, of course, I have the charity stream on the following weekend on the 18th, which I'm really looking forward to. So that's how I'll be ending the year for Midweek Mix-Up. It will be on the 18th on the charity show. But yes, so this week and next week are last shows of the year, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm trying to get a few decent guests to cap off the last show as well. King David has already confirmed he's going to be on next week.
Hey.
Nice.
We've got Big King.
I was just talking to King right before the show.
Yes. He's a massive. Oh yeah, huge shout out to Cog as well. By the way, I think a lot of you seeing that news now.
Yeah,
but of course he's now got an awesome role at Oculus. So huge shout out to him as well.
Meta right now, right? Not Oculus, because
no. It is Oculus. Facebook is dead.
You're right.
It is the Meta Oculus.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
So huge congrats to him anyway. But yeah, awesome show. Yeah. Always great to have Halo discussions with OBM. And of course, like I say, it's going to be, I think a lot of us will be going dark this week, and you'll not see as many people playing the multiplayer. It'll be a lot of people hiding offline or do not disturb and playing that campaign through nicely.
Nice.
And rightfully so.
Well, we look forward to the last couple of shows, Dutch, and of course, I look forward to teaming up with you, whether it be for you or against you in a party. And yes, I will be bringing Zemi in tow for sure.
Oh boy,
look out! And KSN knows what I'm talking about. Zemi is he's fun.
He's a beast in multiple ways.
He is absolutely. Hey, Mag, let's get you out of here, please. By all means, tell everyone where you're going to be tomorrow night. I know it's going to be down and dirty, and also what else you got going on, and where can people reach out to you on social media?
Yes, well, obviously you can find me here every Monday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time ish, if work allows me to. And of course, every Tuesday night you can find me at 10 p.m. Eastern on Gaming After Dark with Noof Nukem and Titan Drago. And of course, if you haven't seen it already, you can always see any of my shenanigans. I'm usually online doing something. And I would imagine by the numbers I'm getting right now, I think a lot of you have seen my stuff. So doing very well, very happy. Thank you guys for all the support. And of course, OBM for being on the show tonight and this wonderful panel, our primetime family. I think we're all doing great. We had a great show. Boom. Once again, thank you for another great show. Chat, you guys were amazing. The fact that we had almost 400 for the entire show is an absolute testament that people enjoy coming out here and enjoy seeing what we're doing and listening to what we're talking about. So, congrats to them for hanging out. Congrats to everybody on this panel for knocking it out of the park as always. Guys, everybody have a great night. Middle-aged Game Guy on Twitter. You know where to find me. Come on. You know where to find me, folks. We'll see you guys all next week.
And yes, and we're waiting for the pony onesie. If you don't have that in your next video, I'm going to cry.
I got something going on now. I got something in the works for Christmas.
I can't wait. Tempest Son, let's get you on out of here, brother. Please, by all means, talk about your Gundam YouTube channel, which you just posted something on the Twitters the other day, which looked phenomenal. And also, where could people potentially team up or, like in old times, get shot in the face playing Halo? Talk about it.
Okay. Yeah, the Gundam channel, when I'm actually going to start uploading regularly. I don't know, man. Life is chaotic for me. You can hear that. You hear that?
Yes, I hear it. I hear it.
Chaos at all times, okay? So I do what I can. You can find me at The Tempest Sun on Twitter. And my gamer tag is Tempest Sun. And yeah, just hit me up if you want to chat. A lot of people do. I have conversations going on behind the scenes. It's fun. That's how I keep up with people. So it's all good, man. And awesome show, guys. Everybody have a good night. And I'm assuming everybody here will be killing it on Halo on Wednesday.
Indeed, absolutely. And last but not least, Everborn Saga, by all means, brother, talk about the Everborn Saga. Talk about the, I don't know, maybe there's 12 hours now left on the Kickstarter. And where can people reach out to you and potentially rope you into the Twitter streets so you can get slandered?
Man. I'm getting tagged in things that I did not expect. I got to stay out of the streets, man. But
out of those streets.
Those ain't streets, those are sewers, man. But
it's like I'm like one of those rappers that goes back to the hood and then ends up getting in trouble. But anyway, I made it out, and then I keep going back. But yes, Everborn Saga everywhere. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Xbox, PlayStation, Steam. Everborn Saga on YouTube specifically. Please go and subscribe to the channel. I'm 30 subs behind Mr. K. Asante, and we are in a gentleman's. Actually, I'm the only one that's in this competition, but it's fun. But please subscribe to Everborn Saga on YouTube. And I just put in the chat the link to the Kickstarter, which ends in about 13 hours. So that's it. This is your last chance to get in. Now is the time, folks. I will put it in the chat once more. And on Thursdays on the Everborn Saga YouTube, we do On the Reel, and there's so much to talk about. There's that new Matrix trailer. There is the MCU news. Tons of things to talk about. Oh, you have to, Kay Asante, I'm just telling you this now because we're on air. Watch True Story on Netflix.
Okay.
Kevin Hart and Wesley Snipes.
Yeah, I saw that trailer. I saw the icon. I was like, Wesley Snipes? Yay. Kevin Hart? We'll see though.
I know. Watch it for Wesley Snipes. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, indeed.
And it's a limited series. Sure. Check it out. I did not need to watch it. I started the first episode by mistake, and then I was 7 episodes in when it ended. This limited series. Recommend check that out. Yes, we will be talking about that later. And some other things. Maybe The Last Duel. Thinking about watching that tomorrow. Ridley Scott, Ben Affleck, Matt Damon. So there's that. But anyway, but check out the Kickstarter. Only 12 hours left. Last chance to get in. We have some huge things planned. And yes, I promise for all my fantasy lovers, the Everborn novel is coming soon. So we will get there. And what else? We talked about Saturday. So Everborn Saga everywhere. And I will be, don't bother me on Wednesday because I'm not playing any Halo multiplayer. It's all about that campaign. And I wouldn't play with you if it was co-op because I got to experience that.
Yes, first. I absolutely agree.
So I'm trying to rush through Guardians of the Galaxy before Wednesday gets here. We will see how I do. I do, but that is it. Thank you, everyone, and I can't wait to see you on Thursday, which is going to be an awkward show because Halo will be out and the Game Awards will be going on. I do not know how I'm going to focus on Thursday's show. We might have to pre-record that one on Wednesday.
Yeah, maybe we'll push it or we'll pre-record it or something, you know.
Yes. Well, listen, folks, I want to thank everybody for coming out. It's been a great 2+ hour show. Like everyone was saying, I will not be covering the Game Awards. It is a 3-hour show with a lot of commercials and a lot of fluff. And what we will be doing is I'll have a bunch of guests coming in to Breakfast with Boom on Friday morning at 10 a.m. And it's going to be complete coverage and reactions to exactly what transpired. We'll be talking about who won the big awards, who got snubbed, and of course the big reveals that are expected there. Hopefully we do get, like the rumor is, 3 Xbox first-party games are going to show up there. We just don't know which one, but we have heard that Hellblade will be making a return. Hopefully that, in fact, is true. But everyone, I want to say thank you again for supporting Double Barrel Gaming, for supporting everyone on this panel. And, of course, I'll close out the show with something that is important to me. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught me with kids. And he said, son, treat others how you want to be treated. Also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules. And I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. Boomstick and Friends.